There we go. Great.
Can everyone see my slides? Okay, just gonna minimize everything so I don't have to see it. Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Caroline, and my thesis project that I researched and developed is Vortex Retreat and Spa. Okay. So the vision for Vortex is to create a space that educates the user on ecotourism through the design of a wellness retreat center. So ecotourism is defined as responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people, and involves interpretation and education. So they aim to attract people from different walks of life. And the end goal will have a positive impact on the environment and the health of the end user. And it will utilize the design and specialized spaces to holistically improve the healing of the mental and physical health of the user and surrounding environment. So there are different stays. Some people can choose to come here just for a spa day, or they can choose to come here for any variety of the packages offered, which would include classes and workshops and different activities as so. So the adaptive reuse building location is in Sedona, Arizona, and it is utilizing an existing building, which helps the building achieve the LEED Regional Priority Credit for Building Life Cycle Impact Reduction. And the site is composed of one main building and 6 freestanding buildings, and it's set against the rocks of Sedona, which is important to the location and the ecotourism practices that will be applied. And it is a private location far from main roads, and it's important to integrate the nature seamlessly into the program. So where the current building is located is actually adjacent to one of the spots where there's a known energy vortex field, which makes it the perfect space for people to go in search of a wellness and mind-body retreat. So Sedona is a hub for wellness and spiritual transformation. A lot of it has to do with the red rocks and the vegetation. And it is home to many energy vortex sites, not just the one that canyon is on. And it just allows for profound spiritual growth and transformation. Another interesting fact is that if you see a twisted tree in Sedona, it could indicate that there's an energy vortex around. So not only does the land provide positive well-being for visitors, but it also is a mecca for spiritual and holistic healers, which would be invited to run different workshops at Vortex and educate the users. So the concept for Vortex is the gestures of nature. It encompasses wellness, mind, body, spirit, movement, and nature, synthesizing the guest experience with the surrounding environment. I developed this collage of photos and my own personal sketches to integrate the gestural movements of nature into one visual diagram. And the design of Vortex will utilize the gesture movement of nature by pulling inspiration from the twisted trees, the red rocks of Arizona, and the human body through a yoga flow. So this is the study that I did for the human body in a yoga flow down here at the bottom. And that would inspire the circulation for the spa buildings and encourage intersection and connection points with the surrounding spaces while allowing for privacy and introspection. And layering these partie forms will allow the natural essence of Vortex to shine. The buoyant canyon topography, which is the topography of the canyon that the building is nestled into, allows for the design of central focus areas with surrounding circulation stemming off and visually interesting elements to be used on all planes. And then the twisted tree provides inspiration for the flow from space to space. It will also provide textural visual elements in the space through finishes. So all in all, the use of the natural materials and linear and organic elements will allow the concept to shine through. So the 2 certification standards we're focusing on are LEED and WELL. They seemed equally as important given the circumstances of the project. LEED will primarily be seen through the exterior of the project, mainly pointed in regards to the site and ecotourism, while WELL will be addressed mainly through the interior of the space, but they'll be used interchangeably, and the callouts will be denoted using the symbols shown. And then some general things to note are that the majority of the materials were selected and specified through the Mindful Materials Library. So that would be a little bit busy if I put the material logo next to every single material on that. So I just wanted to note that before I continue. And then the plumbing fixtures would be to be low flow and utilize gray water in the public restrooms. And the natural light would be integrated in all spaces for the optimal well-being of the user and also for light efficiency. And the main building would be to primarily run on solar power. So you will see these different logos throughout the presentation. So this is where I started with space planning and general program. So this is a bubble diagram, which shows the relationship of the spaces to be included and denotes whether they are a guest space, public space, or an employee space. It also shows their adjacencies and which spaces it is important to include exterior integration and views on. And then on the right, we have the overall program, and the highlighted spaces are the focus areas that I will be expanding upon today. So I figured it was very important to include a site map to show the relationship between the 6 freestanding buildings and the main building, and also the exterior site planning that we went through as a whole. So the key includes parking and drop-off, loading dock, main building, which is here, and the guest rooms on the 2nd floor, a rooftop pool with greenery that would also allow for the regional priority credit because it would help reduce the heat island effect. And then outdoor dining patio right adjacent to the agroforestry garden, which they would be able to provide food for the restaurant and kitchen here. And then over here, we see the outdoor workshop pavilions. So they would have the option to have workshops inside or outside. And the canyon starts here. So there is a trail that connects to the building that they can go on hikes. And down here, there is the 6 freestanding buildings, which were decided to be the spa, and they were to be connected with a conceptual walkway. We'll get more into the flow of the spa in future slides, but right now I just want to point out the permaculture, indigenous garden, and hardscape. Got rid of a lot of blacktop that was here and replaced it with indigenous plants, and the outdoor walking path, which encourages movement, and these whirlpools that are integrated with the exterior and also hidden by foliage so that the spa goers have privacy, as well as these 2 outdoor treatment huts for the spa. So this is the first level plan, and highlighted here, you'll see the lobby, which is one of the focus areas. So as you enter the lobby, you are directed either towards the spa with the connector path or towards your guest experience, whether that includes workshops, which would be seen, sorry, my mouse is on the wrong screen, workshops, which would be seen over here, and then a fitness center here, touchdown, open lounge, entry to the locker rooms from both sides, movement rooms, which would include yoga, any sort of movement, physical activity. And here, people would be forced to walk through the cultural library, which would encourage education on the specific location itself and any ecotourism principles. Then up top here, there's the wellness dining with different locations, depending on if you want to have a sit-down experience or more of a grab-and-go experience. Back of house over here, and the elevator lobby is right here. I wasn't pointing at the screen when I walked through that, but this is where the elevator lobby is. And this plan was majorly influenced by the topography sketch. So this is the perspective of the lobby. So there's transparency into the retail store to insight sales. The interior garden is mirrored by a skylight with smart glass to allow for thriving plants and users. And the floor-to-ceiling smart glass windows would provide natural light and promote natural circadian rhythm. The linear finishes seen here are to mimic Sedona's linear rock formations while also balancing out the multitude of organic forms in the design. And the ceiling height and material change subtly encourages wayfinding, leads you either to the desk or towards the spa. So it is very important that we focus on acoustics here. So this wallpaper would be acoustic, and also acoustic panels above these wood ceiling panels. And then you'll see that this enlarged plan was majorly influenced by the twisted tree with the circulation. So this is a better view of the enlarged plan. And you can see the custom bench here and the custom reception desk here. So the contrasting finishes create a visual interest among the other neutral materials in the space, and the dual height desk will allow for accessibility from all users. The size allows for the receptionist and concierge to work concurrently. And then for the custom bench seating, it mimics the canyon topography and allows for touchdown seating groups with tables, and the cushion helps improve comfort and acoustics in the lobby. And then the native plant garden provides focal point and emphasizes Vortex's mission. So this is a walkthrough from the entry to the desk. And you can see that the signage will either lead you towards the spa here, or the person at the desk would tell you exactly where to go. So this is the spa plan, which would be directly below, if you were looking at the site map, directly below the main building. And highlighted here is the focus area that I will be focusing on in this plan, but pretty much the spa plan is composed of 6 freestanding buildings, but they're all connected by a conceptual walkway, which it has features in 3 locations. And it's an experience to walk through the walkways, and it's so that the nature can be immersive, but also they don't have to be exposed to the elements of Sedona because it can be very hot there. Then there will be multiple exits to lead out to the outdoor path. And this vinyasa study really emphasized and helped me come up with the circulation of this plan. So included, there's a hydrotherapy, saunas, specialty rooms, the locker rooms, main building, and then treatment rooms. So this is a perspective view of the spa walkway and a sketch that I created to come up with the design. So the curve will mimic the twisted tree in the canyon topography. The sustainable interior wood paneling will allow for natural essence while being easy and simple on the eyes. And then the sculptural red rock will break up the banquette bench to speak to the location while adding unique design features. And then the opera windows with smart glass and the planters allow for seamless integration of the exterior to the interior, which helps with the nature aspect of well. And this flooring change almost mimics like a trail in Sedona. So there would be a trail, the sky above, and the red rocks as you're hiking in Sedona. So it brings that essence into the interior walkway. And then clear signage would be for accessibility and so that people know exactly where they're going. And another important feature is thermal control. It's very important in the spa and in the whole place because it's so hot there. But moving on to the hydrotherapy. This is the pool. It's an indoor-outdoor pool, and it allows for integration with the surrounding environment while being conscious about the thermal and climate concerns. So the salt water, as opposed to the chlorine, benefits the environment and health of the end user and also helps with the air quality. The custom floor-to-ceiling windows double as operable nano-wall doors, which allow the space to completely open to one another, but also to be closed off because sometimes the weather can be very uncomfortable there. And then a sustainable cedar ceiling with beams that are locally sourced would be moisture resistant and include concealed acoustical panels because that's very important in a spa setting. So the pool was inspired by the topography as well. So this is a better view of the enlarged hydrotherapy plan. As you can see, this is where the indoor is separate from the outdoor, and the beach pool entry and the lift for accessibility. It allows for accessibility for any user, and the addition of exterior walls allows for the privacy, but it's open to a walking path to encourage outdoor movement. And a local artist mural seen here would be opposite of the arched pool opening, which would reflect on the pool water and create a focal point from all the angles, indoor and outdoor. You can see here these lines just to note exactly which wall is being shown on this elevation. And so the option of interior versus exterior caters to different user preferences, as well as the shaded day beds allow the user to relax outside without worrying about the harsh and direct Arizona sun. And then the soft neutral finishes draw inspiration from nature. So this is a walkthrough of the spa experience from the walkway into the hydrotherapy. So moving on to the second level, there are different room types on the second level, depending on the type of stay that someone has selected and whether or not they want a suite or a regular guest room. So what I've designed is the suite. So starting here at the elevator, there's a rooftop pool. There is a cafe lounge space, and then the circulation continues all the way around the space. So the second floor creates a unique experience for the guests, which is separate from the public spaces. So this is the perspective. Oh my God, I just realized I wasn't pointing at the right screen when I was walking through the floor. I apologize. Okay, moving on. This is the suite, a perspective of the bed. And you can see the neutral tones and linear patterns pull inspiration from nature and the concept, the layering of lighting segments, the bedroom spaces and highlights different moments in the design. And if you would like, there's a panorama here you can scan and look around the suite. And then the custom wood branch partition provides privacy from the entry door and hallway, and the technology-controlled window treatments, lighting, and thermal control just allow for a very user-oriented experience. And these are some of the finishes and fixtures selected. This specific pendant was supposed to almost imitate a vine wrapping around a branch, which I felt was a very unique concept for the lighting above the bed. So moving on to the opposite side of the suite, there's a kitchenette with a cabinet, concealed fridge, storage, and other accessories, which allow the guests to decide how they meal plan for their stay, which directly ties into nourishment and and the built-in desk with adjustable height. It can adjust down, and an adjustable chair and a backlit mirror, but it also doubles as a vanity space. And artwork scene commissioned by a local artist would capture the essence of Sedona. And then the sofa is opposite of the bed for the utilization of the TV drop down, which would drop down from the ceiling through a reveal. This panorama leads to the exact same panorama from before. It just lets you see the whole space all together. And these are some of the finishes and fixtures, just trying to keep like a neutral but also relaxing environment. So this is a perspective of the bathroom of the suite, and the smart glass wall will allow for unison from the interior to the exterior, and the neutral and linear patterns pull inspiration from the nature and concept. The focal point wall panel color scheme pulls from nature, and the roll walk-in shower drainage is concealed by wood panel flooring seen here. The soaking tub has horizontal pattern stone, and it mimics the linear pattern seen in nature, specifically on the red rocks. And then the skylight adds additional natural light into the space while adding interest in the ceiling plane. So these are two details from the suite, the custom bed and tables, as well as the custom shower. So the bed and tables, bed frame and side tables utilize the same finish for cohesivity. The deeper brown woven backboard creates contrast with the bed frame and surrounding finishes, and the cantilever side tables mimic the floating bed illusion and include power, functioning as additional storage, and then the low profile wall-mounted reading lights for personal reading preferences if someone's sitting on either side of the bed. And then the custom shower includes 2 ceiling-mounted rain shower heads to cover more ground. A shower wall includes a shower control panel, handheld shower, and 3 body sprays. And the low-flow, high-efficiency fixtures allow for a luxury yet sustainable experience. And then the built-in bench seating provides a surface for seating or shower toiletries. These are the elements called out here. And thank you, that is my thesis. Thank you to Tracy, Rose, Stephanie, Abby, John, and Amy. Any comments?
Right. Good job, Caroline. What we've been doing is we've been starting with the external thesis advisor to jump in with comments, and then we'll open it up to everyone else. So Tracy, that's you.
Well, I'm really impressed from our last meeting. And I was really happy to see that you incorporated many of the things that we discussed. It looked great. It looked really wonderful.
Thank you.
The only thing I wish you had some things numbered, and I know that you didn't have your arrow. I was having a little trouble seeing what was what, but overall it was really great. And my favorite elements were really the, those indoor, outdoor. I was wondering how you're going to get all those spaces to, flow into each other and protect people, because that Arizona sun is really hot. So I felt that you really got the experience of being in the desert and seeing it and feeling it, but not having to withstand the elements. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, Caroline, that was a beautiful presentation. Like everything about every little detail was just it was so cohesive. Like even down to your hand in the sketches. I think that nice, gentle, dreamy feel that was coming off of your sketches was just that extra little detail that just added to the strength of your presentation. So that was beautiful. I mean, I have a whole list of things I loved. So definitely love that sculptural red rock bankhead detail. That was another thing that was really great. I want to confirm there was definitely smart glass above that zone, right? Okay. I was like, I think there's smart glass. Otherwise, obviously, you wouldn't have done that. So that was great. The smart scan, because I was like, I'll give that a shot. That was such a great little addition. Like, thank you for including that, because that does absolutely help us with the whole VR experience of your space. Oh my gosh, there's just so much. Hold on. I guess the only things I would ask that because again, I understand we're trying to work with our current conditions, and digital presentations are so much more difficult than a hard board where you can constantly reference things that you're referring to. I would say, for example, your materials, how you've called them out is beautiful, but it's hard for me to tell from the image of what it is, like wall covering versus stone versus anything else. So if just a little cute detail, maybe if it's text wrapped around your bubbles, because I see that the style of your presentation is very clean. So incorporating that in some way so it's easy for us to understand what's being applied where. Your feature wall that I think was at the hydrotherapy section, I see the feature wall, but I think it would be nice to have the furniture sitting in front of it too, to really understand that connection. I think that's the wall. I think there was seating in front of it, but that would be a nice, just kind of pump up that elevation as well. Yeah, I can go on and on, but generally speaking, yes, that was just a really great presentation, Caroline. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
To go off of Sarami, that was an amazing presentation, and I also loved the panorama item that you had in your presentation. That was really a cool feature. I also loved how detailed you were throughout the presentation. I also have a list of different things that I loved. Especially, I could really see in your spa plan, your vinyasa sketch, how you had your main walkway and then your rooms off of that. I could really see how that sketch inspired your floor plan. But I just loved how detailed, down to the salt water in the pool. You didn't have to do that, but that was a really cool feature. And then the drawings at the beginning for your inspiration, and having the cute little sketches, having those go throughout your presentation. That was a really good connection. And then I think the only comment I would have to say was also we're trying to work with the virtual reality right now, but the cursor just like on the other screen, trying to follow throughout like the big floor plans. Like it's amazing that you tackled like a huge floor plan, but it was kind of a little bit confusing trying to work our way through the space. But I think that's my only comment.
Thank you so much.
I have a few comments. Caroline, awesome job. When can I go? Because I definitely need a spa day. But really cohesive presentation. Loved it. From the start to the end, everything made sense. It flowed very well. Your definitely your presentation skills and speaking ability is very strong, and that was very easy to understand your design and communicate your design very successfully because of that. So kudos for that. Specifically for the design as well, you've made so much progress since midterm. I'm shocked. Wow. And because I know I was like, wow, 6 buildings, how is she going to do it all? And then there was just, it seemed like a lot and a huge goal to tackle. And I'm very impressed with how your floor plans have developed and come. And I know we spent time talking to about your restaurant, which was not one of your focal areas, but your cafe space, and just seeing that on the plan made me so happy. And I was like, wow, this looks great. So awesome job. I loved it.
Thank you so much.
I just have a few comments, Caroline. It was really great. I was writing how I thought it was just so thorough with so much information. I especially appreciated how knowledgeable you were on the sustainability and well aspects that you incorporated. So often I feel like, especially in a thesis when you're tackling so much, we use the word sustainable, or there's one slide devoted to the well or sustainability, and yours was just constantly reiterating those components in the whole presentation, which is really wonderful and very a professional way to approach it. And it's just a very you project. Everything looks like you have a style, and it really shines through in this thesis.
Thank you.
Great job, Caroline. It really came together nicely. I love the beginning where you took your partie and your ideas, and I know you were struggling with them, but bravo. You went and you reached out to your external advisor, to people you met through IIDA, through, you just constantly were embracing opinions and critique and improving. And it really shows that collaborative, but also maintaining the integrity of your original intent, and it's still there. So congratulations on the job well done. Beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Yay.
Rose, did you mention at the beginning about how?
Nope. I just remembered. I was going to say that while Sarah, you're going to say about the Critics' Choice Award. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
So guys, all the critics, if you could shoot me a quick email at the end of the presentation with your choice of Critics' Choice. So it's hard because everyone's biased. They're going to pick their thesis advisee that they worked with. But, try to be as unbiased as you can. We've done this in the past, but we have not done a Critics' Choice since we relocated to UMass. And what we're going to do is we're going to celebrate. We're going to probably select 3 students, and they will be our speakers at a all college Zoom celebration of seniors. So it'll be an honor for them to be there and to be recognized as Critics' Choice awardees. Thank you. Thanks, Steph. I love that we don't even have to finish sentences and we're on the same page. It's nice to have a work colleague like that. All right, Sarah, you ready?
I am.
Awesome.
All right. Can you all see my screen? Perfect. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Delorey, and today I'm going to be presenting for Sedona, an outdoor resort. Before beginning, I want to give a huge thank you to Megan, my external advisor, who has been a huge help with the process and design of my thesis, in addition to our amazing UMass Dartmouth professors this semester. So during the first half of our thesis, which took place last semester, we spent our time researching what we want to address and how we want to address it with the design of each of our projects. For mine, I'm taking inspiration and research from a few different places, one of which being the biophilia hypothesis. So the biophilia hypothesis is the idea that humans have an innate biological tendency to seek a connection with nature and other forms of life. Our modern lifestyles have us relying heavily on technology and getting caught up in a rat race work style, straying us further from nature. These modern day lifestyles and work styles take away from that want and need of spending more time connecting with nature and these other life forms. Spending time connecting with nature has been proven to decrease stress and anxiety levels, lower blood pressure, and positively affect humans' general well-being. So it's really important to designate spaces and opportunities to allow those who crave a connection with nature to explore it and offer those who want it a return back to simple human pleasures. So there's a few different reasons that I decided to go along with this study, and one of which being Camp Cody. So for the past 7 years of my life, I have been a camper and a counselor at a 1-week summer camp in Freedom, New Hampshire through my town's youth group. During this week, we disconnect from our phones and technology by leaving them at home and spend most of our days outside doing various outdoor activities and games. As we disconnect from the technological world, we easily connect with nature and the earth that surrounds us, the people we spend our days with, and most importantly, ourselves. I've always been really appreciative of this week and what it brings me, so it really inspired me to bring the same feeling to other people outside of this unique experience. Another reason I decided to do this on the contrary was because of COVID-19. So when the world shut down for a few months, people were forced to stay inside, and for a lot of us to rely even more heavily on technology, between people working from home and doing online school. Something I noticed with myself and my family, along with many other people, is we turned to nature as an escape from this. It was a safe and relatively easy way to get out of the house and away from screens. So I noticed the rise in popularity of doing that. In a survey I had conducted in the fall semester, 74 out of the 76 respondents said that COVID-19 had had an impact on how much time they spent outside. And many of those people realized how important it was for themselves to spend more time outside, and they felt more appreciative of nature. Some other focused research that I did was coming from who this outdoor resort would really target as an audience and what issues it may be able to address. So in a 2020 travel trend study, it was found that people are looking for vacations that fall under categories of conscious travel, which is focusing on like sustainable alternatives to other vacations, transformational travel, which is traveling to grow and learn intentionally. And people are also more likely to take what are called microcations, where people are looking to go on shorter trips more times throughout the year, rather than taking a 1 or a 2 week long trip throughout the year. So this outdoor resort is able to address and encourage each of these travel trends. It's going to be targeting users from the Generation Z and millennials, since by 2025, they will account for approximately 75% of all consumers and travelers, as well as they're interested in taking trips that include water-related activities, getting closer to nature, glamping, and unplugged retreats, as you can see by this graph here, which resonates strongly with what this outdoor resort is trying to solve. Another design influence that I had kind of following this preliminary research was a pursuit of biophilic design. So biophilic design seeks to connect that innate tendency for a connection with nature that I mentioned earlier to the modern built environment. It can reduce stress, improve cognitive function and creativity, and improve our general well-being. This design influence stems directly from the purpose of the outdoor resort, which is to connect the users with nature, their surrounding company, and themselves. So biophilic design will be implemented into the space by following what are called the 14 patterns of biophilic design. And these patterns articulate the relationships between nature, human biology, and the design of the built environment, so that we may experience the human benefits of biophilia in our design applications. So you can see right here, those 14 patterns of biophilic design, and they will be notated by this little leaf here and the P1 through 14 on the following slides. So all this research kind of went into the location site. I was able to get a wants and needs list of what would benefit for the site and the outdoor resort design. So the site that is being used is a camp resort in Golden Valley, North Carolina. This site offered plenty on and off the resort, which allows for guests to explore nature in whichever way they choose. The exact location is right at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which not only allows for easy access to activities like hiking both on and off the resort, but it also provides beautiful views around the entire site. There is also a large lake on the existing land, which allows for plenty of water-based activities. The existing site had an abundance of cabins, glamping sites, tent sites, and RV sites, as well as other necessary amenities, which will be used as the buildings I will be designing. And the site was also a desirable site due to its potential for LEED certification, which will be a goal of this outdoor resort. In the following slides, you will see similarly how I notate the biophilic design. You'll also see that for some LEED credit categories. So then here are some existing conditions of the site I just want to point out quickly. Two of these images, this one shows one of the private existing cabins, and this one shows a large public amenity building, each of which have some like dark woods and colors on the exterior. And this site was originally catered towards young children and their family based on kind of the amenities that it shows and the visible design influence of Yogi Bear. It was really important to notate these things before beginning a huge change in this adaptive reuse design. Another goal to address during this reuse process was to ensure that the entirety of the resort would have a bigger focus on ADA accessibility and ensuring all users can easily get from one place to another, even traveling outdoors. And then these images just show some of the views of the lake in both daytime and nighttime. So then thinking about concept, of course, I'm focusing so largely on that connection to nature. So something that is constant in nature is both the sun and the moon, which also kind of make nature what it is on Earth to us. So the sun and the moon work together, but are also completely different things. The sun provides heat and light and makes many natural elements a possibility, where the moon gives us a relatively stable climate and creates tides. So for me, it was really important to have two different concepts, which such a large site, but to ensure that these concepts worked in conjunction with one another, but allowed for those different design directions in the varying spaces I would be designing. So as you can see some images on this side here that I used, since the sun and the moon are things I cannot physically touch or take apart or anything like that, like some of us do with our concepts. I took inspiration from these two images. This sun one is called the solar analemma, which is basically if you were to prop up a camera in the same location and go back to it every day for a year, take a picture of the sun at the same time every day, it would create this figure 8 in the sky. Similarly, for the moon, it would do the same thing just over the course of a month. So I was able to use these, the solar analemma and the moon phases to then pinpoint some existing buildings on the site. So this is a site map, and the sun will pinpoint some public amenities where the moon will pinpoint some private amenities that got translated into this space right here, this site right here. So as you can see, the sun amenities are those public spaces like pavilions scattered on the site, the public restrooms, and the lodge, which is centrally located right here, which is one of those buildings I'll be focusing on. And the other yellow spots symbolize other fields and spaces for recreational activity on the site. These were then merged together to do the complete site plan. So the guest suites are labeled by different hues of blue, ranging from holding 4 guests to 16 guests, as well as plenty of ADA accessible guest suites throughout the site. Like I said, one of those main buildings I'm focusing on is this building right here, centrally located, which is the lodge. Its central location made for a desirable building to provide a few different necessary spaces on the resort. And I will also be designing a guest suite that fits up to 8 guests and an ADA accessible guest suite. Even though the lodge is centrally located, it may be inconvenient for some users maybe that are staying over here or on this side to have to come over to this space. So there are also some existing cabins that were flipped into a grab-and-go cafe-like area so people could utilize those as well. So then the next thing with the concept that I worked with was a party. As I mentioned before, you can't really take the sun or the moon or work with it physically. So I kind of want to take instead what those, the sun and the moon both emit, which are colors and light. So using a light box, I was able to create a gradation of color from light to dark with both blue representing the moon and red representing the sun. This party in gradation of color influenced some schematic design that you'll see in the next few slides. Which then finally brings us to the first floor of the lodge. So as I mentioned, that the lodge is relatively central in that overall site. So this was the most ideal area to have some general spaces that are beneficial for the guests. So I'll begin by walking you through the space. You would start here, and then you are greeted immediately by the stairs that is open to above, where you'd be able to see the above floor. On either side behind the stairs, there are 2 different restrooms and then some elevators. Going back to the front and going into the left side, there is a cafe, which is kind of like a grab and go area if you do not have the time to sit down in a restaurant or anything like that. The kitchen is directly attached to the counter where you would both order and pick up your food, and then some seating arrangements over here. So you can see some of those seating arrangements on the side, as well as you can see a trash and recycling bin that are located at each entrance and exit. Going over to the other side, there are two different locations that kind of share the same general idea. The first one being a general store, which provides all the basics in case a guest forgets something or runs out during the week. They're able to come here and grab that, which shares a cache, which shares a cache with what I'm calling an activity retail store. So this is able to provide a unique shopping experience by providing a specially catered inventory for this outdoor resort. Meaning that if I'm kind of new to this whole connecting with the outdoors, I'm able to come to this resort and maybe meet up with an employee here and ask them what are the best things to do here in the area, and also get something like a water bottle or hiking gear or anything you may need to perform those activities that you might be interested in doing. That brings us up to the second floor, which is home to the restaurant Soleil, which will hold concept from the sun. And this is one of those the focus areas that I did. So the restaurant was chosen for the focus area for a few different reasons. One being there is a community garden and a farm to table idea that was implemented into this space, which really can connect the users and the guests to nature in a whole different way. And another reason was to encourage engagement and community between the different guests on this outdoor resort. So the FF&E takes inspiration from the sun, like I mentioned, and kind of what the sun gives to Earth between colors, plant life, and natural light. So to bring you up to the space, you come up either one of these stairs. There is a restroom on one side and then a waiting space in case there's a wait time for the restaurant on the other. The elevators are directly across from the host stand. And then walking into the space, you're directly greeted by some custom booths and just some general dining. One space I mainly focused on in the restaurant was some bar seating, as well as over here, you can see some kind of jet outs in the wall, which I'm calling immersive alcoves, that you'll also see as one of my focus spaces for the restaurant. And then some more general dining, some ADA accessible bathrooms, and then some communal dining down here that can also double as an event space. Next, this shows the third floor plan of the lodge, which was in addition to the existing building to allow for some outdoor space for the restaurant. So coming up from the stairs, you're immediately greeted by some like pavilion seating, which is a little bit more casual to provide a kind of comfier area for dining. And this wall kind of gives the best views of the lake and the overall resort. So that's why they were utilized here. There is a bar, some custom booths, and then some other general dining on the top here. So then finally, that brings us to the first perspective of the restaurant, which shows a perspective of that immersive alcove seating that I had mentioned. So the point of this alcove was really to break physically into nature. As you can see, it jets out from the regular floor plan. You can also note that on the enlarged floor plan. These spaces are differentiated by a little bit of a change in the floor material, and there is also a differentiation in the ceiling height to improve some acoustical properties, as well as allow for a little bit of more privacy for these guests dining in here. You can see to the left some FF&E selections, all of which are labeled with that lead credit categories that I had mentioned. The next perspective shows the communal dining area. So this was implemented to encourage guests to interact with one another and make connections. Since this outdoor resort is so catered towards people of same interests, it would be really interesting to be able to go meet some new people and those with similar interests of you and make new connections with them. So here are some custom communal tables with live edge tops that are right against a wall with a custom wall covering. This custom wall covering was taken directly from a sketch I had done in the beginning phases of my concept and just added some colors, as you can see kind of the inspiration of that solar analemma. The other seating is pretty general seating over here that would be modular in case of an event space being needed. And then there is some custom booths that I'm going to talk about in just a second as well. So here is an elevation of the custom booths in this community dining space. So these were created with a local custom booth company that helps to execute the curved feature that it has, as well as the unique full back planter that it has on the back of the booths. So using the extra space between the wall and the back of the booths, we implemented a suitable condition for these plants. Down here, you can see some FF&E selections for that, including their lead credit categories and kind of what we chose for this space. And then finally, for the restaurant, the last space I focused on was the bar, which offered a similar experience to the communal dining and gave guests an opportunity to connect with those around them. One material utilized in this space was rammed earth that you can see on this back wall here. That gives a really unique texture and color to the space. It's a wall constructed of raw materials. And then some greenery was implemented on the ceiling in the space to break up the kind of warm tones in here. It was really important for the entire restaurant to be using sustainable materials and natural materials to see through with that concept of the sun, as I had mentioned. So then that brings us to one of the guest suites. So this is the ADA accessible guest suite. First, looking at the bubble diagram, this is kind of that implementation of the partie that I talked about, where the kitchen, dining, and living spaces, which are more public spaces within the cabin, have some more like light being let in. And then when you move into the bedroom and bathrooms, you have some more personal controls based on windows and everything like that, allowing for that gradation of color from public to private. So to walk you through this space, you would come up the ramp and then you would be immediately greeted by some outdoor furniture, which you can see a few selections right here. Those seating selections are around a fire pit that is connected to an indoor fireplace that is also surrounded by some living space furniture. There is a small kitchenette that has a counter height roll-up available dining area. There is a queen-sized bed in this bedroom, and then a bathroom that has a roll-in shower that extends into a roll-in shower to the exterior as well. So then I also designed the floor plan for a guest suite that would hold 8 guests. So again, looking at this bubble diagram, you can see similarly how the space in the middle, the kitchen, dining, and living, those public spaces would allow tons of light in, and then these more private spaces would ensure that the windows and any light being come in would be able to be controlled easier. So again, to walk you through the space, you would start at the stairs and you were immediately greeted by some more outdoor furniture selections you can see here. And I would just like to point out again, the fire pit and the fireplace, which was kind of a custom detail to connect those two spaces, as well as bring in some biophilic design, since that is a main key point in biophilic design is using sounds of nature, and fire crackling is one of them. And then the fireplace is within the living space that is open to the kitchen and the dining area. You can see some dining area furniture selections right here. There is also a back patio that has some more outdoor furniture you can see over here. Moving back into the space, each side is pretty symmetrical, and each has a bedroom with 1 queen size bed and then a bedroom with 2 twin size beds. And then there is a bathroom, again, with that large shower that extends into an exterior shower. So then here is the first perspective of the guest suite. Mainly we can see the living space, including that fireplace that I have pointed out a few different times. But that is at the forefront of this perspective. But in the back, you can see that dining space that features also another custom art piece that I took from some sketches I did working with concept in the beginning, similarly to the one in the restaurant of the solar analemma. And then there is also some custom sloped ceiling windows up here as well that we were able to work with to produce this across the entire space and symmetrically on the other side as well. This was to implement a moment, basically, once you walk into this interior space from the outdoors, you're immediately then greeted again by those outdoors. So I just wanted to show some elevations of the exterior fire pit and the interior fireplace and how they kind of work in conjunction with each other. So for the exterior fire pit, I chose some natural materials that have fire resistant properties to properly customize the fire pit. And for the interior materials, this one is kind of directly influenced by the moon's surface and the textures and colors that it gives to us. And then the next rendering I show is of the guest bedroom with a queen size bed. This is a custom floating frame that sits against the wall with this wall covering that kind of remind me of the moon craters. And then you can see here again, those skylights that go across the entirety of the building. And then this is where we implemented some ability for personal control over the windows, as well as some privacy panels right here too, for the guests to be able to choose how much light they would like coming in or out of the space. And then the skylights for this bedroom are perfectly located over the bed. So when you lie down at night, you're able to see the sky or the night sky or anything like that. And so then the last thing I have for the guest suite would be the RCP, because I want to just show even further what those custom sloped ceiling windows look like. So you can kind of see an ISO view of that, shows the slope of it, and then also connecting it to the windows that are on the walls across the whole space. Some other lighting things that I pointed out in here were all really influenced directly by the moon, since the moon concept holds strong in the guest suites. Some of these lights kind of remind me of the fog that often is emulating the moon, some craters in this one where you can see the little divots that it holds, and then something like the moon phases. So then that finally brings us to our walkthrough. So this walkthrough consists of 3 different spaces, which includes the entirety of the restaurant, a walkway, and then leading into the cabin. So you can see the bar first, that is surrounded by that general seating, some high top and low top seating. And you can see the custom ceiling that was curved to mimic the bar shape as well and bring some curves into the space. And then going back into that dining area, the general dining, there's some high tops against the windows that offer some beautiful views. And then there's some custom booths to the right. And then you can start to see the immersive alcoves. You can see each of them, and you can see the floor breakup of them. And then another thing I wanted to point out was this radial drop ceiling as well. That's above some general dining, also some more custom booths. And then that brings us into the community dining space with those custom tables, the furniture that's able to be moved in case of an event, and then a closer look at those custom booths that I had mentioned earlier. So then this goes right into a walkway. So this is what the walkways would look like leading up to the cabins or throughout the entire space. As I mentioned, ADA accessibility was a huge forefront of this design. So we wanted to make sure that all these paths were made with permeable pavers and ADA accessible for everybody. And as well, they targeted some LEED categories by ensuring that there was not too much light pollution for the animals around. Here is the perspective of the cabin. So you walk in and you're immediately greeted by your check-in station if you want to do a virtual check-in. You can kind of see the curves of the walls better in the walk-through, the living room, and then a closer up view of both the kitchen and the dining space, and that custom artwork that I had mentioned before. That leads us directly into the bedroom, where you can get another view of the skylights and how it connects to the large window, as well as that wall covering. And then that goes right into also the bathroom, which has the indoor to outdoor shower that you'll see in just a second. All right, and that concludes my presentation. Any questions or comments?
Wow, Sarah. Let's open it up for comments and feedback. First from your external advisor, Megan.
Sarah, this came together so well. I am so proud of you. I guess just to go through your whole presentation, from the start, loved the solar analemma concept, and the way that you put that throughout your presentation really showed throughout the flow of the campground, putting that public versus private spaces. It was really nice to see the color change up, where you had like the yellow, the reds, the more exciting tones be the public spaces, and then having the blue and the purples be the more like soothing colors in the private spaces. That really connects people to, well, nature and then their energy themselves. So I think that was really smart on your part. I love your eye for detail throughout the whole process. You really wanted to bring the solar analemma throughout the whole design, and the sketch came in at the end, and I thought that was an amazing idea. I didn't even see the little artwork until today, so I love the wallpaper and the artwork in the cabin, and then also like your eye for the furniture pieces. It worked really well with your concept, but it wasn't overbearing. But overall, you did a great job, and it was great working with you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to start off by saying I think your project was beautiful. It's so crazy to look at all these projects and remember them from midterm and how far they've come. I love how much natural light you used throughout the space with all the large windows and the skylights and everything. And I think that the feature wall in the restaurant with that grid with the hanging plants was amazing that you were able to achieve that in your drawings. But overall, really great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Megan and Shannon said. Obviously, it was a really great presentation, Sarah, and it's crazy that how far you've come since the last one. So again, huge congratulations on that. I think you absolutely have one of the strongest concepts that I've ever come across in all these thesis presentations, and I think exactly like how you've conveyed it throughout your design has been really strong. So like congratulations on that too, because it's hard, it's really complicated, and but you managed to achieve it in such a beautiful way. I think I just have like the same feedback that I had for Caroline, where just like in terms of materials, like just understanding what the materials are always helps. There was one thing that that I wish you had done, which was you had the elevations of your fire pit and fireplace, and you had discussed what the fire means in biophilic design. I wish there was fire on the fire pit. It just would have been this nice detail, would have warmed it up beautifully. It would have added to your concept. So if you're able to add that, I would definitely recommend it, because it would just bring that elevation light. It's like almost there. That's why. And I just wish there was a little flame action. I was gonna say the other thing was your furniture selection is so great. Like I loved all the pieces, and the only thing that, and with that said, the guest board, it only had one piece of furniture, and you were describing this fire pit, you describing everything else. And I know they were custom pieces, but I was really curious based off that little tease of the 2 lounge chairs, like what does the rest of the furniture look like on that board? So if you're able to add that, I think that will also help with that board, because yeah, I agree with Megan, like your furniture selections are spot on. They're so great. So I would just love to see it wherever I could, just to help really animate the design. But overall, awesome. Just really awesome, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Going off of what some of the others said, not to bring it up yet again, but I want to point out again the way that you used your concept so often, how successful it was. And I say that specifically because having had you in other classes, you always have a concept and you're like, oh, my concept, I never loved my concept. And even at the beginning of this project, it was like, you said that was one of your biggest struggles, is always concept. And yet I feel like it is the one thing that really shines through in your project is how successful it was and how you used it in unique ways. Like the idea again for the custom artwork, it's like, it just is really unique the way that you incorporate it. It's not like cliche, it's not overbearing. It's just like these subtle moments where we experience it, and not just through like your selections, but even just giving us like the access to the sun and moon in very unique ways through the way that you laid out the space. So I think all that was really successful. And my only critique was going to be also about FF&E and just telling us a little bit more about it, because you took time to pick those selections. Just don't let it be an afterthought when you present.
Thank you.
Sarah, I had just a few comments. Wonderful presentation, wonderful project idea. I wish I was so creative when I did my thesis. Really fun. I thought it was really great how you incorporated your concept into the site plan and developed that and walked us through that whole process, because I thought it was very interesting and very unique. I thought some areas that could have been a little bit more beneficial during your presentation was orienting us, the building relative to the site, like, because I know you mentioned, at one point you did mention, this is where the views are, but like showing a key plan of where that's relative to the lake, or just I kind of lost track of that during the presentation compared to the site plan at the beginning. So just kind of emphasizing that would be great with some sort of graphic, or even like a little key plan in the corner where like water is this way or like north, or, you know, just some sort of context would be great. And then the other only little piece of feedback would be on your ADA cabin. I noticed there was a couple dimensions that might just be off a little bit for ADA compliance. So just double checking some of those dimensions would be beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciated how you were able to synthesize the entire year in one presentation. Sometimes when you look at the research and the pre-thesis, people let that sort of go by the wayside, all the research, but you built really thoughtful decisions off of a cumulative design, and the output's beautiful. It really has come together. It's a gorgeous presentation. I've never been camping, but I would go here. This might be my first time camping, which I don't really share with a lot of people, because people are like, you've never been camping. I just never had the desire to go outside and sleep, but I'd sleep there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, I know Abby's laughing at me at never gone camping. Miss Wilderness gets married on a mountaintop. All right, Zoe, I just realized I had times wrong on the on what we sent out. I have 7:30 instead of 6:30.
That's okay.
Yeah, nobody, we know what's going on. All right, Zoe, you ready?
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. Okay, did that go over well? Does it look good? Can you see? Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Zoe, and for my senior thesis, I have designed an eating disorder recovery center and researched the ways to combine hospitality design with a healthcare facility. So the client that we are designing for is Iris Gladius Recovery Center. They are a treatment and rehabilitation center that specialize in treating adolescent women from any stage of their eating disorder. Our goals for our client through this design are to combine elements of both hospitality and healthcare in order to create an environment that is both welcoming and supportive without having any of the intimidating elements that sometimes come along with healthcare facilities. With this, we want to be able to provide comfort to our patients and really provide a priority for their mental health as well as their physical health. And our long-term goal would be to see a long-lasting improvement on the mental health of the patients and for the client to see a reduced rate of relapsing. So some background research onto this subject, just to highlight the value of our client, is the current prevalence of eating disorders across the global population. Currently, over 9% of our population are struggling with the eating disorder. However, only about 10% of those will ever receive treatment. In addition to this, I've found that many adolescents and young adults will intentionally avoid treatment because they are either afraid of it or they may have anxieties about it. But to dig in a little bit more as to what caused this or why this was, the past fall semester, I had conducted a personal study through an anonymous survey asking my participants just various questions on the subject and mental health and things that they were comfortable with regarding the subject. One of my questions was if they would feel comfortable to ever stay at a residential health facility, if they would know it could help to benefit their mental health. And then with the participants that had answered saying that they would not be comfortable with that, I then asked a follow-up question as to what factors made them uncomfortable on it, finding that some of the really common answers were that they did not be either away from or somewhere that they weren't familiar with, or they just had these or fears about these types of facilities because of those intimidation factors. So through this, I really want to put a focus on having healthcare be not only accessible, really making it desirable so that those who need the treatment will be able to seek it and feel comfortable to receive it. So the location this design will take place is in Whitman, Massachusetts. While through the process of determining where we wanted to locate the design, we knew we wanted to stay within the state of Massachusetts, preferably near the greater Boston area. This is because Massachusetts is quite well known for their wide range of healthcare facilities, and we wanted to make it an option for anyone who is currently staying at some of those other facilities to be able to relocate or transfer to this one without too much hassle. We also wanted to have our building be located within nature and preferably somewhere that was within either a residential community or just something that wasn't too urban or business, so that it would feel comfortable and have it be a smoother transition for someone who goes from living at home to living at an inpatient facility. Another thing that we kept into consideration is adaptable conditions of the existing site. We didn't want to design a space that had been recently renovated or that had a lot of limitations, because we wanted to have the freedom and leeway to design the space completely new and not feel any of those limitations with its existing conditions. So with our selected design, our selected location, some of the adjacencies to the site are that there is a medical supply store located directly within the building that is owned by a separate tenant. And it is also directly across the street from the Whitman Station commuter rail, which is across from the main entrance of our portion of the design. It is also off of Route 18 and Route 27. So with this and being across from the commuter rail, it makes transportation really easy and also accessible for those who may not be living on site at the facility, but may want to commute or travel in to access the resources. And it is also directly adjacent to the Hobart Pond and Scenic Park, which allows for an enhanced access to nature, which is something that we really wanted to focus on. And it's only an hour from Boston, which is not a very bad commute. And it is also nearby various shopping amenities for any necessities or additional resources. So the existing conditions of the site, it is a 2-story multi-use industrial building with a total square footage of over 100, and that is a big number. It's a big building, so we're only going to be occupying about a quarter of it, and we're going to be fully gutting the interior. As you can see here, with its multi-use, it's being made up of office spaces, some industrial storage spaces, and just general outdated spaces that have not been used and are not being taken advantage of. So we are fully getting the space. We are going to be keeping our entryways and the majority of our windows. So then onto our concept. We have chosen the gladiolus flower due to its symbolism for persistence, integrity, and strength. And additionally, it is a perennial, which gives a further representation of new beginnings and being able to regain and rebuild your health and strength. So we looked at some of the characteristics across the flower and the plant as a whole, and we pulled these into some of our concept sketches and studies, where we really focused on the linear forms of the plant as a whole, but also looking at the more angular features of the petals and the organic shapes of the blooms and of the buds, and the relationship between the stem and the full blooms leading up to the premature buds towards the top. We then tried to bring this into a visual 3D setting. So then we took a sketch and brought that into a partie model, where we viewed this as a relation between our 2 floors of the design and had those connected through an atrium space to be able to have a connection throughout the building as a whole. And to make the space feel more open, this also ties back to the linear forms, which are going to be really strong without it feeling too constricting or too angular. So the reason why I wanted to choose a recovery center design is because of the overwhelming statistics on individuals with eating disorders or just with body image struggles in general. And from that, there has been a recent influx in body positivity and wellness promotion through online communities, but there are not many real life versions of this. So with this design, we want to create more of a real world application of these types of supportive and wellness promoting communities that currently exist online, and to make those more accessible and feasible. So for our programs and schematics, we had conducted a series of research on precedent studies for existing recovery and treatment centers. And looking at these, we focused on what types of spaces they all included to know what was required for this type of building. But we also tried to pay attention to what spaces seemed to be missing from these facilities that we thought would be beneficial to include for our design. So with that, once we had determined all the spaces that would be necessary, we then broke that down into 3 main categories between the general and amenity spaces, and then our more clinical and healthcare spaces and community and mental health resources as well, to promote the wellness and the general feeling of community and connection. And then once we had our program determined, we started to bring that into bubble diagrams to get an idea of how we wanted to lay out the spaces and what relationship we wanted to create with them. So with the bubble diagrams, we tried to replicate the form that the plant has as a whole with its stem to bud ratio. This sort of came into a really linear format. So we started to find struggles with circulation, and there were egress troubles. So this did transform quite a lot from what it appears here into the final floor plans, which will be shared shortly, but it still showcases our initial thoughts from bringing concept in to then how we later decided what was a better way to integrate our concept. Along with this design, we are really aiming towards receiving a WELL building certification, as this will really highlight the value of our client, as well as showcase our commitment and dedication to the users of the space that we're designing. We're going to be focusing on 4 of the 10 concepts for WELL, those being nourishment, mind, movement, and community. And each of these will really be focused on in our main focus areas, which will be called out as we dive deeper into those. But as a whole throughout the building, we just really want to focus on having a appropriate relationship between the spaces and making sure that these were all kept into consideration. So the 3 focus areas that we're going to be developing are the community dining room, meditation, and patient room. While each of these are going to focus on specific aspects of the WELL certification, they also have a series of shared goals between them that really pertain to our goal for the facility as a whole. Those being the encouragement for connection with others and making our patients and users feel a greater sense of belonging here. We also want to promote the mind and body wellness and connection, and really promote, emphasize mental health as well as physical. And something that's very important is to provide comfort with familiarity. We don't want this to feel like a cold or sterile space, because sometimes that is associated with hospitals and other healthcare buildings. So we want this to feel familiar, and also to allow individuality to patients and allow them to feel like themselves and not feel like they're just a patient staying somewhere to receive care, that they're actually somewhere that they can enjoy and feel comfortable in. So to look at our floor plan on the first floor, this is where we've divided it into our 3 main building zones. And up here at the top is where you can see the portion that we've designed in comparison to the building as a whole. So from our bubble diagrams, that was when we were trying to work with this upper half of the building and have that angular form. But we were running into problems with this, with the circulation, and also we were really having a limited access to windows and natural light. So we found it better to focus on this more rectangular form in the corner, as this allowed us to have more natural lighting come in and better access to the windows, as well as being able to create a more flowing and appropriate circulation and various egress paths to have the space be fully accessible and safe for the users. So to walk through the space, if you were to come in through the entry and into the reception, you would take a left if you want to first enter through the general spaces. Firstly, through the indoor garden, there are 2 different bathrooms. We have our gender neutral bathrooms, which are separate stalls and some sink areas, and then a women's bathroom as well, since this is a facility focusing on women adolescent patients. Additionally, these bathrooms are to be fully mirrorless, as we want to take away any attention on physical image. And going through the indoor garden is then our open kitchen and dining room, which is one of our first focus areas. And then there is a closed kitchen as well. If we are going to go through the reception and come back to our right, there's also a visiting space for the patients who are living on site here. This is where they can meet up with their family members or anyone who wants to take some time to visit them while they're here. And then going down through, we have our movement spaces with some private yoga or activity rooms. And then there is a group meditation room as well, will be another one of our focus areas. There are additionally bathrooms in these spaces and showers as well. So for those who are using the movement spaces, they can utilize them and then take a shower before having to come back throughout the space, just so they can feel comfortable and not be coming throughout the space after any physical activities. If you're to come into reception and take a left instead, this is where you would walk through the mental health resources area, where there's a separate reception lobby for the specialist check-ins. So this is where any new patients can come in and get accustomed to the resources with our therapists and dietitians, which then have private offices of their own. And there's also a medication and prescription pickup room, which is placed sort of in the middle between the health resources and clinical, as we wanted this to be accessible to both, but also not have it intrude onto the more high intensity clinical area, because this is somewhere that other patients will be using for more general use, and we wouldn't want to have to require them to pass through the entire other zone of the building. For the same reason, we have a more general lab here in the corner for any typical or regular blood work to be done. And the general nurse's office here, which is just right on the perimeter of the remaining clinical area. And these are bordering the medication pickup as well, for that same reason, just to have them all be connected and accessible for those who don't need the more higher clinical spaces, but to still have them be adjacent to the remaining clinical zone. But if we are to come in through the clinical zone as a whole, we first come in and we have our patient rooms lined up along this wall to give them plenty of window space. And across our exam rooms, and then we have a staff break room here with a kitchenette for all of our nurses and doctors on staff. The second entry here opens out from the secondary parking lot. This secondary parking lot is behind the main entrance of the building, so it's a little bit more private. And this is also if there are any emergency drop-offs or ambulances coming through, there's a bit more privacy and they can come directly into this zone without having to pass through the rest of the building. And then we have our other patient rooms, additional doctors and nurses' offices, and then our larger laboratory and lab space. And the second floor of the facility also does host the remaining program requirements. However, it's just not going to be showcased just because it was not showing any of the public spaces or many of the design elements. So we just wanted to focus on this floor to highlight all of the design features that have been developed. So first, coming into the space, we have our reception area where you can see our custom reception desk, which is composed of a Macassar ebony laminate sourced from Arborite and an eco glass countertop. This was designed to replicate the natural forms of the petals and have the organic shape, but also still be well-rounded and well-formed. And then it is then highlighted by the drop ceiling coming down that is also in that curved form and highlighted by two pendants of the Belterra pendants sourced by Tech Lighting. Directly across from the entry is our spiral staircase, which leads up to the second floor. And then our intention with this and having it be a focal point in the reception was to promote users to come in and use this staircase rather than the elevators, which are located just behind and to the left, so that they can really interact the space and get to view it as a whole. And then below we have just some more breakout lounge seating. And on the flooring, you can see we've implemented some wayfinding by using marmoleum flooring through Forbo. This mimics the stem formations and leads users from the entryway into the various amenity spaces and focus zones. So our first focus area, being the community dining room, is composed of 3 main areas, being the open kitchen, community seating, and then some more closed private seating. Coming into the kitchen, this is where we want our patients to become comfortable with being able to prepare meals for themselves and understanding their nutritional requirements. It is also adjacent to the indoor gardens so that they could fresh produce that here. Also highlights the nourishment concept for Well, as it emphasizes mindful eating and also the local food environment from the in-sourced herbs and greenery, as well as a lot of the food being sourced locally in general. Our main community seating, we want to emphasize the community aspect to have patients be comfortable eating in a group setting and feeling like it is something that is safe and comfortable. But additionally, we have included some more private seating as well, because we don't want to push anyone into going into a stage that they're not quite ready for, and we want to allow for the natural connection with others to really have more of like a long-term recovery rate. And this also looks out into the indoor garden, so that has an additional access to the nature and just making it feel open without being too exposed. And to go past the open kitchen, there's also a closed kitchen back here for patients who may not be at that stage where they're comfortable preparing their own meals. We'll have professional chefs on staff who will know the nutritional requirements and what to prepare for those patients, able to do that for them and provide that until they get to the stage where they can utilize this open kitchen. And then we have collaged some of our materials here just to show the relationship as a whole for everything together. And then you'll see how that all comes together in our perspective, where we're to look at the kitchen. And this is where we really wanted to highlight that organic linear formation from the stem moving up to the enclosed buds, having it be straight and linear, but still rounded, not getting too organic. And our main color choices for this palette were more of these secondary colors. So we wanted it to be vibrant and fun, but also still have some manner to all of it together. With the custom countertop here, we have a Ecotear terrazzo slab, and then a dimension paneling from MDC below it. And then that ties back into the above cabinet painting, which matches the color. And then our split counters along the back. So then onto the dining spaces, we have a open atrium coming up from the open seating. So that leads up to the second floor, where then it would open into the lounge space. And here we've utilized some acoustical panels from Armstrong, as well as drop pendants down to bring in the lighting, but keep the space open and natural. We also have a custom window bar along the large window here. So this we've utilized we have wood slab countertop along with the painted wood panels, which then come back to the kitchen paint to tie it in together. And along in the more private seating, we have booths as well as a few couples counter seating. So here you can see where that looks into the indoor garden, but still has a bit of privacy and enclosure to itself. And with this space, we've used a wall covering back here from Innovations. This is a vinyl wall covering, and the upholstery we've chosen for the booth seating as well is also sourced from Stinson, coming from their line of their performance fabric line with their Krypton finish. So looking at the seating as a whole, you can see there are 3 main types of seating in the community seating area. So this allows for some larger grouping and just smaller, more casual seating. And then the bar top seating allows for either individual dining or just more casual as well. Suspended above the wall as well to utilize that open space we have from the atrium, we have digital screens that will source through a series of promotion and inspirational wellness visuals or short clips just to have engagement throughout the space and keep movement. And then we can see a peek into the more private seating and our look from where we come in from the garden as well. And then going into our next focus area being our meditation room. This space you can see come in and has been an arrangement of meditation spaces to promote that engagement of the community and get others to become comfortable with the connection and involvement. But also we wanted to, again, similarly to the dining, we didn't want to force this connection. We wanted people to feel comfortable and allow them to adjust to when they're ready. So this is where we have an acoustical paneling and room divider with a daybed behind, where an individual or two could sit and take in the space as a whole, but also still feel a bit of privacy and not have to feel too exposed to the other users in the room. This room we really want to focus on having a more toned down palette because we want to focus on the natural and soft elements without having any too distracting elements to the space. So in here, we wanted to switch out the windows with much larger, nearly floor to ceiling windows to bring in the outdoors and link that back into our natural elements inside from our bamboo planters and acoustical moss walls. So with this being a smaller and more relaxing space, we didn't want to overcomplicate it. So this is another reason why we focused on the lighter palette and being able to bring in as much natural daylighting as we could. And we've also implemented a few wall coverings. We have a vinyl flora wall covering to the right, sourced from Innovations. And onto the left, there is an acoustical wall paneling as well, which is textured, and we have a grazing wall wash coming down onto it. This brings in some warmth into the space to keep it from feeling too cold, but also with the acoustic properties, it really enhances the space and blocks out any of the audio coming from outside from the rest of the facility. And from this view, you can see that more private space divided by the room divider. So this is intended to still feel connected to the rest of the room and be able to promote engagement and keep anyone from having to seclude themselves, but giving them that opportunity to pace themselves and move as they're comfortable with. And with our last focus area being our patient room, this is somewhere where we wanted to allow individuals to have somewhere where they could stay and receive any assistant care that they may need until they may then move into one of the dorms that would be located on the second floor, or if they feel like they're ready and they receive the care that they need while in here, they could simply move back home, but still continue to come back and to take advantage of our resources that we have on site. This space, similarly, we've also focused on the cooler palettes, but we wanted to make sure that the space would stay open and airy. For our furniture, we pulled all of it from Herman Miller's healthcare line, and all of our upholstery we've also sourced from Stinson with their Rush line. So their Rush collection focuses on the healthcare solutions through the finishes and textiles, but also being all either vinyl or polyurethane finished. So with this view into the patient room, you can see how our palette comes in and then ties with the natural elements to create a balance between the cooler forms of our palette, but also the warm natural tones. With the large window, we want to make sure we could bring in plenty of natural lighting, but also not wash out the space. Reason being why we've brought in the blinds over. Behind the bed, we've also built in custom wall shelves. So this allows the personalization aspect for patients. If they're staying for a prolonged period of time, they can bring in their personal belongings to feel a bit more at home and to really make the space their own. And these wall shelves have been designed with inset wall shelving as well as outlets so they can serve as charging stations and also to power any speakers or other devices that they would want to bring into the room with them. And additionally, in the space, when you first come in, there's a privacy curtain into the space, which would loop over the sink and keep privacy across the rest of the bedroom. And this is also sourced from a harem, so that has its healthcare properties as well. So then to look at the space as a whole, we really wanted to focus on the cycle throughout all of our focus areas and the facility. It sort of runs as a continuous clock, starting in the reception if you were to first come into the space. If you need the assistant care, you would then be able to stay into our patient rooms, start to become comfortable with movement and physical activity, and utilize our movement spaces and meditation room, and then slowly become more comfortable with your relationship to food and cooking. And then from there, gain more of a connection with others and have a more natural sense of your connection with food and dining. And then from there, we just want to see a cycle where then once they're completed at that stage, they can continue to come in, whether they want to commute for mental health resources or simply just to continue engaging with the community and those that they've interacted with from staying here. So that concludes my presentation. I want to say a special thank you to Shannon Byrne, who has been my external advisor for this project, as well as Rose, who has been my internal advisor, and to Abby and Stephanie, as they have also really given me a lot of help throughout this project and over the course of the semester as a whole. So thank you. And if I may kindly reshare, I have a walkthrough separately coming in from the entrance into our dining. Kind of scared this might be either way too loud or no sound at all, so we'll have to see what happens. So this is where we'll come in. We'll look at our desk. We'll also see our spiral staircase going up to the top with our lounge seating. We'll then take a turn. We'll see the indoor garden and all those natural element features. So this is meant to stay open and light. And then we come in to the dining and kitchen, looking at the space as it interacts with itself. And then again to turn and look at the rest of the seating as well. How it's all spaced together. And then our more private seating and how you can really get a good look at the indoor garden from that area as well. And then you can come back through and you can also see behind reception, we have a separate mailroom. Again, for those who are staying here long-term, that's where they could come to pick up any letters or mail or packages sent to them back from home. And there we are. So we'll come back another one. All right, thank you. I'll accept any comments or questions.
Thank you, Zoe. Let's open it up to Shannon, your external advisor.
Hi. So I definitely want to start off by saying this has, again, come so far since even our last meeting like 2 weeks ago. I love that you incorporated a lot of the things that we talked about adding in, a lot of the suggestions I gave you. And I think that you really stuck to your concept in like a way that incorporated it all, but in like using muted colors was really helpful because you don't want this type of space to be overstimulating. And I think that you did a really good job of that. I loved the green feature wall that we saw in your walkthrough. I think that was awesome. Very well modeled, I should say. But overall, I just think you did so great and it has come so far.
Thank you.
So you did a great job. I wish I had seen the first presentation too, because I would have just loved to see, to get more, because I think that it was such an insightful project. I think your research shows, your selection of materials, which is next level, because I felt like you memorized every detail of every single piece of furniture and material that you selected. So that was very evident too. And I really appreciate the walkthrough at the end, because it helped me understand the relation of the spaces. So like seeing these moments of like what is beyond was really great to see. And I think it is a really like, your use of colors is really bright and lively, but it was all, yes, it was definitely, you were able to balance it out with more of the neutral palette too. So I think that really helped. Just the detail of all the amenities for the people attending the space was really great too. My one thing was when we were doing the focus areas, it was a little hard to understand what was what in terms of planters. Like I knew it was an indoor garden, but I think adding little labels would help for me to understand what's in the space. Even in the dining area, I think it was a shock to me to see that by the window was a bar height seating versus, it was just these little things. But I think adding the extra labels would also help to really explain the space, because it was a lot of floor plan at the beginning, and so it was just trying to reference back a lot of like, what was that was there, but otherwise I think it was such a great presentation. So thank you.
Great job, Zoe. I have to say, I really liked how much research you put into this presentation as well. Just like Rose mentioned for Sarah's, you added that extra layer into the presentation, and that was really great to hear on that perspective. In the beginning, I loved your conceptual study sketches, and I love how you did the overlay of the spaces throughout your sketches as well. I thought that was really nice to see how it would come together throughout the floor plan. And then I noticed you also had the panorama, which was really cool. Just like Sarami was saying, it was a lot of floor plan in the beginning. So I think my comment would be maybe to talk about the spaces separately instead of all together, because it was a lot of floor plan, but it was a very well organized presentation, and great job.
Awesome job, Zoe. Loved the presentation, loved the concept and how you incorporated the concept throughout. I think the organization of the presentation was really well thought out, and I appreciated the highlighted areas and delineation of space with the colors, and graphically that was very easy to follow, especially as other advisors had mentioned, is the floor was a lot of floor plan. So I think those colored hatched areas really helped that though, and focus our attention and indicate, you know, the research and development you did during your circulation studies and your private versus public, and how you wanted the space to flow. So I thought that was very successful and well done. And really also appreciated how you incorporated the well building standard and indicated the icons on the plan. I thought that was a very successful way of adding that information to the plan and making sure it was a talking point during the presentation. So nice job.
Thank you.
A couple comments, Zoe, that I had were liking this idea that your considerations for healthcare, but keeping in mind the importance of making it feel like a comfortable, hospitable space. And I think you did that really well. So again, visually, I think we got the idea of sort of this sense of hospitality, but through some of the detail that you put into the selection of fabrics and furniture and the things you pointed out, we recognize that you kept in mind the importance of some of the, again, healthcare qualities of some of those items. I thought your space planning was really well done. And I really appreciated the little recap you had at the end before we did the walkthroughs, just sort of explaining how now we have all these spaces and this is how they're addressing the needs of the individuals, because that's really what it's all about, is how it supports the people that you're designing for. So you kind of brought it back to the initial client that you developed for this project. So I thought that was really well done.
Thank you.
Great job, Zoe. I as well loved the recap at the end. I thought that was a really nice element that you put in. I also liked that you were really thoughtful and about what your focus areas were going to be. I know you went back and forth and you started designing one and then you abandoned it, which takes a lot of courage to, you know, move in another direction and add the clinical because it was such an important factor of this space. So congratulations for embracing constructive criticism and doing an about face and implementing it and owning it. You did a really good job. Good job.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. All right. Now we have Molly chugging right along.
All right.
All right.
I should probably share with sound too, right? I have my walkthrough.
Yes, yes. If not, you can pause and redo that if it's an issue.
Okay, let me make sure I have all this stuff set up. I like to reduce it so it's just me, so I'm not like, I don't feel any pressure. So here we go. All right. All right, hi. If you don't know who I am, I'm Molly, and my thesis is GEXP, a gaming studio experience. My thesis advisor is Sarami Lee. She is a senior interior designer at Tanya Nayak Design. So GEXP is a gaming studio facility. Basically, my whole idea behind it is the video gaming industry's growth over the years. It's been growing exponentially since its birth in the 60s, and video game content has become a popular area of the entertainment industry in recent years. Most gamers operate entirely from their at-home setups, and the projected rate of continued industry growth poses a need for improved office-like workspaces for these individuals to use away from home. So basically, GEXP is a gaming studio facility designed to foster community while sustainably supporting the mental and physical well-being of its users. And through my pre-thesis development and research, I narrowed down some target demographics to include professional gamers and streamers, content creators, casual gamers, local college students to the site, and just in general, Gen Z. And then just a little tidbit about the video gaming industry. In 2020, the industry as a whole was worth $159.3 billion, which is pretty insane. I chose to do a thesis that involves video gaming just because, like, I'm not super like a gamer or anything, but I am very interested in like gaming and just even watching professional gamers play and everything. I think it's definitely an industry that has explosively grown and has so much more to go. And one thing that I love about it is the underlying theme of accessibility. So accessibility and inclusivity are recurring trends in the gaming industry. The availability of free-to-play games encourage participation across the board, and the boundless nature of global gameplay fosters community as well as respect for cultural differences. And also the importance of designing for all is prevalent with video gaming as well, which is something that us as designers are really cognizant about. So I feel like, you know, drawing this parallel between the video gaming industry and our own industry is something that we can advocate for and bring to other areas of society. Custom-made controllers are often offered by major companies like Xbox, PlayStation, and Oculus. And just to sort of emphasize the power of this industry and the different aspects of it, I found this message from someone named Brandon responding to Oculus, who is a VR company or offers VR gaming. They announced that they had like set a new precedent for gaming VRCs, which I think it's like recommendations for like certain audio visual elements of virtual reality gaming to help people who might have like cognitive, different levels of cognitive abilities that might be triggered with certain games. So he responded to the development of the VRC program with virtual reality and saying that he's been paralyzed for over 20 years now, and with using his Oculus Go, he's been able to feel the sensation of walking, running, jumping, and even standing alongside other people, which is that's insane. I think that that's something that is really special about this industry. That's just part of the reason why I wanted to pursue a thesis involving that. So if you don't know video gaming, I could spell it out for you. The user background that is going to be involved in GEXP includes gamers, and there are a lot of different kinds of gamers. So gamers are people of any age who play video games casually or professionally. The main modes in which video games are played often include console, which is like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, personal computer, which is just PC, that's what everyone calls it, and virtual reality, which is one major company is Oculus. So streamers are casual and professional gamers who broadcast live gameplay on the internet for a worldwide audience. Esports and esports athletes are professional gaming athletes who compete individually or on teams for in competition for rank and reward. And then content creators are casual and professional gamers who record gameplay on their own time, edit and post videos to YouTube. And content creators can also just be people who create like lifestyle blogs and videos that are also posted to places like YouTube. And just to sort of further emphasize the specific uses and applications for the spaces within GEXP, I created some user profiles. So Nick is a professional gamer. He needs a space where he can practice for esports competitions and meet with his teammates to strategize. Carlos is a gaming enthusiast. He'd like a space to play the latest games with friends on Friday nights. He's also interested in a spot to rent occasionally to stream live on Twitch. That's one of his hobbies. And then Martina is a parent. She wants to learn how to foster the best possible gaming experience for her young daughter. But she also happens to be a brain surgeon at MGH who needs an environment where she could focus while learning new surgical techniques, which we'll get into a little bit later. So the site that I selected is 1597 Washington Street in South Boston. This building is mixed use. It was built in 2000, recently renovated, so it's pretty up to date. It has 6 floors plus an underground parking garage, and each floor has approximately 15,000 or almost 16,000 square feet of usable space per floor. Unfortunately, I do want to add that I wasn't able to acquire the building plans. So all of the plans that I made were just sort of like a guess as to what it's like on the interior. But what I do know is that the first level is a storefront level, and then levels 2 through 6 appeared to be all residential apartment spaces. So I used that when I was sort of developing my plans. And then this is a great site location because even though it's in an urban spot, which I feel like is an epicenter for people who are very virtually involved, specifically gaming, and another area of our target demographics, college students, it's also adjacent to public transportation and quite a bit of urban green space, which is pretty rare in any city, especially Boston. So if you look at the site plan that I did on the right, you could see a variety of green space and actually a community garden too, which will contribute to some of the factors I'll be going over later. There's also various retail areas, fitness amenities, cleaners, food, grocery stores, and other housing, so they can sort of interact with other people that live in their local community. These are some images to support the site. So obviously some exterior images. This bottom left image is of one of the upper penthouse apartment suites. So just showing those awesome views of the city. A view across the street to a large expanse of grass, which is really nice, and then an overhead view of the site as well. So this is my branding identity. I love graphics, so I wanted to spend some time to carefully develop this. I wanted to make the branding identity for GEXP compliant with sort of the overarching idea of gaming and technology, but I also wanted it to be legible and accessible. So I feel like the combination of colors and overall identity and typefaces elicit those feelings. And also to keep the whole project compliant, I'll be using all of the branding colors throughout. So my concept, I wanted to keep it true to what the project is all about, so I chose a motherboard. If you don't know what a motherboard is, look inside any or maybe you don't want to look inside any piece of tech you have in your house because you'd have to rip it apart. But a motherboard is located inside of any tech device or whatever, and it basically is the epicenter for all informational functions and stuff that controls your device. So combined with its direct connection to gaming technology, a motherboard's composition of integrated programming will serve perfectly as the conceptual inspiration. Centralized data centers supported by adjacent contact points and nodes will influence the spatial relationship between physically and virtually collaborative spaces. The angular avenues in which information travels has direct potential for wayfinding and circulation path design. This is my party model. So as you can see, I found a motherboard and I took it apart and sort of reconstructed it in a way that I felt like kind of embodied what I wanted to go for in terms of making different amenity spaces and elements within the building that all sort of still retain an interconnectedness and support the overarching idea for GEXP. On the left side, you can see some of my initial concept sketches, some buzzwords that I want to use within my design, sort of have dictate what I want to focus on, and then just how some of that translates to CP. For my program, I won't go through all of this because we'll look at each floor plan, but I wanted to utilize the entire building. It's such a great site, and I feel like GEXP has the potential to affect so many other areas of society beyond just gaming, given the pandemic and how virtually involved our lives are now. I mean, we're all on Zoom right now, so I feel like any one of us could go to GEXP and get something out of it. So each floor will cater to supporting both the community and people who want to rent the space long term. So floors 1, 2, and 4 are all either completely public or semi-public. And then floors 3, 5, and 6 are completely private to the people that are renting there long term. And then for schematics, I did a lot of schematic design in the beginning, but some of the things that I think have retained over time as I continue designing are my bubble diagrams. I use these sort of to create adjacencies or big picture adjacencies when I first started designing and sort of orienting spaces in a way that they would be best designed for acoustics, location, and also traffic. So I wanted to keep the high traffic spaces sort of central to the building's core, and then the lower traffic spaces that people might be gaming or recording and need to focus on the outskirts, and also to sort of keep those spaces that people are going to be circulating to a lot on the outskirts of the building, so they do get, you know, that sort of built-in physical activity. So as I've sort of been alluding to, and like physical activity and other factors in the design that cater towards the human experience, I will be building well into this project and designing for the inhabitants' well-being. So when I was in the space planning phase, I wanted to establish variety and balance within my internal adjacencies. So I feel like I did so with this stacking diagram, which shows what ways I incorporated nourishment, movement, mind, and community aspects into the design, and their even distribution throughout the building. So in terms of specific applications, the gaming studios as well as the experiential retail showroom will train the mind. Collaborative gaming spaces and touchdown promote social relationships and community. And then the availability of locally sourced healthy food options combined with designated exercise space nourish the body. And then, so I did want to mention the exterior of the building is very important to the interior. So although I did want to retain as much of the existing structure as possible for sustainability reasons, I did want to note that some changes to the facade will reap benefits for sustainability in the long term. So in terms of my facade redesign, I'm showing this south elevation, which is the front of the building. And the addition of more exterior glazing in both of the highlighted areas will utilize morning and afternoon daylight while providing easily accessible sightlines to urban green space views, really taking advantage of those spaces around the site. And then the existing brick will be refinished in matte black paint with mural signage, just to further update the building and sort of cater more to my overall aesthetic. So I've noted where the signage is on the plan or on the elevation, and then these really big LED letters to sort of like also refresh the exterior. And even though it's an existing building that maybe is not the ideal architectural style to go with my concept, is not super futuristic, it will sort of add that element without changing much about the building. And then another big aspect of my design was in catering to well is the atrium space. So before this building, I'm guessing because I didn't get the plans, just had elevators. And obviously, since you can't move an elevator shaft, I tried to build my way around it and then sort of blast an open space that spans vertically up through the center of the building. So the shaft opening provides sightlines to activity between levels while carrying sunlight to the building's core. So I feel like this is a really important element to also cater back to that concept of the motherboard and interconnectedness and avenues in which data is transmitted. You sort of get that effect when you look from the atrium and you can see all the activity happening between levels. And then the addition of an 8 feet wide central staircase around an existing elevator shaft will encourage physical exercise and social interaction. It's wide enough for people to stop and chat. And because of that open atrium space, it's going to be a really visually interesting spot. So it's going to encourage people, if they're able to take the stairs. All right, so level 1. When you walk into the building, you enter the reception area, circulating around to the elevator lobby with that open atrium. On the right side of the building, we have the gaming cafe. And also I want to know, I did add some bike storage to incentivize people to use a healthy mode of transportation that also is good for the environment and good for their bodies. The great thing about this gaming cafe area, which I'm not fully designing, it's not a focus space, even though I wanted to design it. We didn't have the time, but there was a flour bakery there before. So obviously, since I didn't get the plans, I don't know what they were or where the walls were, but whatever that flour bakery is, those walls and that setup should be able to support a gaming cafe. So good that we won't have to move any walls for that. In the back, we have storage, admin offices and rentals. That's where people can go if they want to rent a space long-term. Restrooms, some more storage and loading dock, a flexible open event space that can open up completely with nano walls to the spaces around it, and then a gaming showroom and retail area. So this is my first focus area, is the gaming showroom and retail space. With this, I sort of wanted to change the narrative about gaming, because for some people, they associate negative connotations with gaming that are simply untrue. In response to this, a retail space that can function as a learning environment is incorporated into the storefront level. In addition to supporting prospective users, gamers can come and try out the latest technology, furniture, and accessories to optimize their gaming experience. And some target demographics for this are gamers of all ages, interests, and experience levels, parents, and even locals who are seeking ergonomic work from home enhancements. And just to sort of support my assertion about the video games being a potentially beneficial thing if used correctly, the development of hand-eye coordination, increase in concentration, logical thinking skills, healthy competition among children, and socialization skills are just some of the benefits of using video games responsibly. So for my gaming showroom and retail space, I included an enlarged plan here to show you some of the specifics of the area. So if we start, can you guys see my mouse moving around? No, okay. Yeah, I don't know how to do that, so sorry. If you look at the bottom of my enlarged plan, you'll see the street entry. So you can enter on from the street in this first corner into the space, and you're greeted by the VR pod. So that's a space that is going to definitely be eye-catching from that front glazing, and people can go in there and see what VR is all about. And if you continue to circulate straight back, you're greeted by some kiosks, which we'll talk about in my perspective, a custom POS station, which can house 3 different point of sale computers, a monitor display wall with live gaming streams all day long, PC gaming stations, the back of house area, which we're not going to go into. And then if you circulate back around the right side of that POS, it can be opened up to that flexible event space. There's a mobile gaming area with some accessories, and then some console pods. So moving over to my elevations on the right, the PC gaming stations are perfect for someone like Nick, who's a professional gamer and knows exactly what he wants, but needs to go and try it out and, you know, feel how his body fits in a chair, feel how that new mouse is when he's trying to click and shoot people in a game, whatever. But that is like a perfect spot for someone of his experience level to go in and try out a gaming station and see if it's going to work for him. And also the theme colors of each station represent their cost and correlating experience level. So that's just something that people could use to notate that. And then the POS station VR pod elevation shows that nodes are distributed throughout, encourages circulation deeper into the space. So all of like the elements of the retail space are sort of stacked. So the more you walk into the space, the more you're seeing, which will make people want to circulate throughout and ultimately buy something. So this is my first perspective. In this, you can see the gaming education kiosks. So these are interactive, kid-friendly interfaces with mini games for parents and kids to learn safe gaming best practices. And this is a perfect resource tailored to parents, just like Martina. The monitor display wall features some different monitors with specs and pricing featuring gameplay on trending games. And the discs are available for purchase on the reverse wall. Moving along. This perspective shows the VR pod and the console gaming pods, and also the mobile gaming wall. So the VR experience pod is a 360-degree range of motion with integrated surround sound. So you really are immersed into that experience and you can feel what it's like to have the right VR experience and maybe even purchase something and take it home. And frosted glass filters the light that comes off from that exterior glazing to create the optimum level of light for VR gaming. And then the console gaming pods are an at-home type setup to provide like the best trial experience, because let's face it, most of the people who walk into this space are probably used to gaming at home. So they want to know what it's going to feel like if they buy that PS5 and they take it home and they're playing in their own room. And then this is a space that Carlos can use to find new games to play with friends before he rents on the second floor, which we will get to. Here we are, the second floor. So in the program for this, we have a lobby with the reception and rental kiosk. There's also an IT help desk if you circulate further into the space, surrounded by some touchdown space and a micro cafe. Each floor will have a micro cafe with healthy food options, just to incentivize that overall well aspect of nourishment. If you continue to circulate around that open atrium to the other side, the floor plans are mimicked on both sides. The group pods are open to the rest of the floor and also can be closed with nano walls, which we'll get to as well. There's VR pods for people to come in and use a VR setup if they don't have one at home and they don't want to buy one. There's restrooms, and then there's little alcoves of studios that include macro studios and micro studios. So macro studios are more developed spaces with more amenities and tech-oriented features, and basically just more optimized for the professional or a little bit more than an enthusiast level gamer. The micro studios are spaces that can be used by just about anyone, like a content creator can go in and use it. And someone who's just trying to record a video or even edit a video can go into any of those smaller spaces and utilize that tech without having to buy expensive programs for their own at-home computers. And one more thing I did want to mention about the VR pods, which I probably should have added in here. Martina, who is the surgeon at MGH, could also use those for her smart, serious gaming training programs. It's basically like a VR program for people who, like doctors and even race car drivers, utilize VR programming and training systems to learn how to do things before they actually get to doing them. So they can come and rent the space through MGH as well. So that brings us to our second focus area is the multiplayer pods, those group pods that have the nanowalls that open. And basically the logic behind these is that social interaction is imperative to sustaining mental well-being. A balanced life involves work and play. Providing public space for casual group gaming makes a facility more accessible while encouraging pros to take a break, socialize, and just have fun. And socialize in person, not over the internet. So these are located on the second floor, and some amenities and features that these spaces have are a custom media wall, integrated surround sound, RGB customizable lighting, nano walls, and some modular furniture. So the multiplayer pods and large plan elevations. On the left side, you'll see the enlarged plan. So the first two pods on this floor are right off the rental reception. So providing that sight line right into that space, even if you saw this from the first floor through the atrium, is going to make it really interesting. So you're going to want to go up there. And using like some fun textures and colors on the walls are going to make it unique graphic wall coverings function as a visual wayfinding cue for each pod. So helping people sort of circulate through the space, remember and orient themselves on the second floor as well. And then going back up, that walk-in rental reception space has dual reception features, a rental advisor, and one rapid check-in kiosk. A lot of people don't like the confrontation of going up to someone. That's fine. You can rent it online, walk right up to one of the desks, just scan your pass and you can get right in. And these spaces ideally function towards people like Carlos who want to have a fun Friday night with their friends. They can just rent a pod out and go and play like the latest games. So here are some perspectives. Some key aspects of the design are flexibility. So those operable nano walls and modular furniture make it so that the spaces can be customized to accommodate just a small group, or say there's a tournament happening and two people are competing. A whole bunch of people can file into the pod once those nano walls are opened, and everyone can pull up a chair and get cozy and just watch the fun. And then the custom media unit that I designed can store and charge an Xbox, PS5, Nintendo Switch, all of those things and all of the devices that go with those things. So you don't have to wait on one pod that might just have a Nintendo Switch to rent it out. They all have everything, so you don't have to worry about that. And then having the control to customize each space in your experience is really important too. So one aspect of the design is an integrated Ketra RGB LED system that can be controlled with the touch of a button. All you have to do is download an app and you can change the lighting in the room to any lumen level and any color, which is kind of fun too. And then acoustically absorbent materials control the sound levels within the pod. So if you're going wild with your friends in there, don't worry about it. Just close the nano walls and you won't bother anyone. Level 3, so this level has a secure lobby because it is private, and it has some studio spaces, including macro studios and VR pods. It also has some open touchdown space, a micro cafe, IT help desk, and sleep pods for people to rest, professionals to rest in between streams, or say they're really exhausted after working all day, they can take like a 30-minute power nap before driving home. So this is my third focus area, is the macro studios. The average time spent gaming is between 3 and 5 hours per session, and pro streamers tend to spend much more than that. I've seen streams, well, I haven't watched the whole stream. I have a life, but like I've seen a charity stream go 24 hours, and it's amazing because like they raise millions of dollars, but imagine streaming live for 24 hours, that's crazy. But so that just goes to show you how many hours these people are putting in. But to physically support the body, a highly ergonomic setup is needed. Beyond ergonomics, optimal gaming conditions require multifaceted sensory controls to ensure function and focus. So these spaces are offered on both the 3rd and the 5th floors. They're just carbon copies of each other. And then some important elements to note that I'll talk a little bit more about in the next slide are technology integration, wire management, acoustics, thermal controls, and lighting. For this space, I did do like a lot of process work, so I wanted to showcase some of the sketches that I had been doing. Initially, I wanted to do a desk system that had some integrated like elements to it. I didn't end up doing those, but that's something that is really important to consider, is every single aspect of the thermal comfort of the space as well is really important to a gamer. They have to keep their hands warm. So thinking about like what material is the desk surface is something that I wanted to just be mindful of in my design. So that's that sketch, and then obviously the lighting, which I talked about, and the RCP sketches, and then just the overall studio design as well. So within each studio, I wanted to make sure each gamer had everything they need, but also before we get to the studio, I want to talk about the corridor. So each corridor has a room number, and the LED room numbers switch to red when recording or streaming is in process, just to sort of show, you know, don't come knocking on my door. I'm like a little bit busy right now. You know, I know that recording and sound quality is important to them, especially if they're making a video. So that is sort of a visual cue for people who are circulating down the hallway. They can see that and be like, okay, all right, I'll be quiet. And then again, these studios were designed to support serious gamers just like Nick. And then so macro studio feature walls will alternate between brand compliant colors. So as you'll see in the next slide, there's an acoustical felt wall that is in yellow for the one that I show, but that can alternate between all 4 of the brand colors for each different studio. So just a little bit of variety in there. And then this is my macro studio perspective. So there you can see the acoustical felt wall, it's buzzy tile. So that will limit vocal reverb and sound transfer between studios, which is really important, as we've talked about. And also felt is a really great material to use right now because it's sustainable. It's not like a terrible thing to use. It's also very recyclable. So that's great. And ergonomics are very important because these people spend a lot of time at the computer, probably way more than us, but we spend a lot of time at the computer too. So as we all know, like ergonomics is very important. So Herman Miller actually designed a chair meant just for gaming called the Embody. And they did that in collaboration with Logitech, which is a big gaming company. So that's the chair we're using in this space. And that chair is also, I think it's 96% recyclable, which is pretty awesome too. But an adjustable gaming chair with a height adjustable desk. So that desk surface is custom designed, as well as the, I don't know what you'd call those, acoustical slats that go up and around the desk. I designed those as well. It took me so long. But the idea is for the desk surface to be able to be mounted to rails that are attached to the acoustical slats that can sort of low pressure slide up and down. So it's easy for anyone of any ability to change the height of the desk, and you can have that sit to stand experience as well. The monitors are also mounted onto a low pressure arm. So if you need to adjust the position of those, that's easy to do too. And they're also attached to that desk surface. So when you raise the desk, you raise the monitors so nothing gets thrown out of whack. And integrated wire management and power is also integrated into the desk too, because there's going to be a lot of wires, a lot of tech accessories happening, microphone, camera, all that stuff. So having all those wires integrated, actually that monitor arm from Herman Miller has a channel which you can loop the wires into, so you don't even have to look at them, which is great. And then the lighting, obviously very important. Customizable RGB LED system to reduce eye strain when you go from the computer to anywhere else in the room. If the lighting levels aren't equal, it can be strenuous on the eyes and also just bad for your eyesight over time in general. So being able to control that from your phone or from this tablet on the wall is a big plus. And the tablet also controls the climate in the room too, which is the gamers need to have their hands warm. So being able to control that climate as well. And the desk surface, I forgot to mention. Oh my God, I feel like I'm forgetting to mention so many things. There's also a mini fridge, but the desk surface is by Paperstone, which is 75% recycled paper, which is amazing. And the great thing also about that is that it's sort of like a neutral material, which means like it doesn't get too cold and it doesn't get too warm, which is also good for, you know, the body, thermal body stuff. Level 4 is sort of like the collaborative level for the people who rent there most of the time. This right part is open to the public, which includes a retro arcade, restrooms, a bar, and some bar games, which are meant to sort of bring people together physically and not involve any sort of screens. So pool, darts, that sort of thing is meant to be incorporated there. And then circulating through that barrier onto the private side of the floor are some group gaming pods meant just for the people that rent there long-term, some lounge space with board games, touchdown space for people to come together and maybe plan or get creative together and do that sort of thing, conference pods, a communal kitchen, and dining space. Level 5 is just a repeat of level 3, so I won't bore you with that. And then level 6 is the physical wellness level. So utilizing those amazing outdoor views and even just urban views of beautiful Boston, I figured it would be advantageous to make this level like mostly glass, so you can see out all around the building, and it would totally draw people to this level to go up there and exercise, which is a huge element of incorporating well into the project. You know, they have to climb up all those stairs to get there, and also once they get there, they're going to want to be there because the view is amazing, so might as well just work out. And there's a smoothie bar too, which who doesn't love smoothies? And then just a little note to sustainability, some of like the things that I tried to source. I think 90% of the product that I've sourced has sustainable attributes to it, which is really important. And also combining that aspect with the incorporation of well makes this project really easy to try and also attain at least the lowest level LEED credit. So that's something that's really important too. Then I have a walkthrough. Oh no. Sorry. It wasn't done yet. Okay. some citations. And then a big thank you to all the amazing people who have helped me. Sarami, you were like the greatest external thesis advisor. Just working with Sarami at Tiny Dynamic Design ever since my sophomore year has just been amazing. So it's a total no-brainer to ask her to be my thesis advisor. And she's been amazing. So big thank you to you, Sarami. And then Rose, obviously, Steph and Abby, thank you for answering all my miscellaneous Reddit emails. And Steph, thank you for meeting with me and keeping me on track, and Rose giving me like the big ideas. So thank you to all you guys. You've made college amazing.
Yay.
Molly, I am so happy about this presentation. I mean, you've been, with every meeting we've had, you've always come to the table with just so much. And I keep thinking, and I'll be honest, like, is she really gonna have that much for me to like look at for the next time, because she's covered so much. And every week you've always like doubled down, and I was really curious about what this was gonna look like because I haven't seen it yet in its entirety. So it's come such a long way. I love it so much. I think you're totally achieving that whole, like, I feel like you can drop me in here blindfolded, and when and it feels like a gaming place. Like, that's the vibe it's giving off. You're successfully carrying your branding through. Like, everything feels really right. The details, clearly, you've covered it all. And I know I've mentioned it before. It's just, it blows my mind that you're not a regular gamer because of so much, all the research you put into this. Like, just like the nitty gritty of everything. And I think it's such it just shows how strong of a designer you are to study your user, like to like, as much detail as you can. I think it's funny that our last meeting, you were getting really panicky about your material choices and how these were going to come out. The pod rooms look great. They look so good. I'm
glad you said that.
Yes, I was wondering. I wonder where she went. I'm glad you took that plant out. I think everything else that you replaced that one plant with is amazing.
I'm glad I took it out too.
Yeah, no, it's such a strong presentation. So yeah, like you deserve a good sleep tonight for sure. This looks great. So congratulations.
Molly, you did such a great job. I was so happy I was able to see this at midterm. So seeing the development of it from midterms until now is like just so exciting. I really see the motherboard concept throughout the space. The wayfinding, the floors. I love a good ceiling, so that followed through the ceiling. The walls, like the finishes that you picked out, and even like the lighting. I love the lighting in the little VR spaces or the game room spaces. Something that I really appreciated was the user profiles. Because I don't have a ton of experience with gaming, so just being able to connect with those, I guess, user profiles helped me understand it a bit better. And also, I have a background in institutional design with one of my internships, and then going into my first job. We did a lot of VR work, trying to work with different medical companies and learning how their products worked. So this really helped me see with, I think it was Martina, who was a doctor. Yeah. She would use those products in the space to kind of learn the surgeries. So that was really helpful. I liked that you touched on the exterior as well. That was just like a nice added element. And yeah, even just like little details such as like the numbers outside of the rooms to show that they're recording, just a nice touch. And your stacking diagram. I thought that was a nice connection, the well stacking diagram. So really great job.
Thank you.
Hey, Molly, a couple comments I had. It's kind of like what Sarami said about the materials. Again, having worked with you so closely, like I remember that time it was like the pink wall, and we were kind of like, yeah, I don't know. And so again, I hadn't seen the materials, especially in those multiplayer spaces, but not only like where I think that you made excellent choices, but they tied back to your your concept and your partie really well, which some of the original selections, when you were like waffling on some stuff, they weren't quite there. And then all of your selections were great in that regard. And they were showcased so nicely in your perspectives. So the quality of sort of some reflection, the lighting, which can be really tricky to showcase accurately, especially some of that indirect lighting you're using. I think it really looked fantastic in your perspective. So, so congratulations on all of that. Came together nicely.
Thank you.
Awesome job, Molly. Fantastic renderings and perspectives. I love the lighting. Like Stephanie said, lighting is so hard. And I mean, we all struggle with that on a professional level of getting those renderings right with lighting.
Yeah.
So well done there.
Thank you.
I love the colors and finishes and the overall concept. Really interesting. I never would have thought to do a gaming center. It's such a cool idea. Loved it.
Thank you.
Great job, Molly. It's hard to believe when you look at the volume and the amount that you did that you don't have like a small staff working for you.
I wish I did.
Yeah, you and everybody else. But I really appreciate the level of detail. You looked at the big picture stuff and then the minute details and comfort levels, thermal comfort levels, and it's all really important. So congratulations. It's a beautiful project.
Thank you, Rose.
Sure. All right.
All right, how do I stop this?
Now we're ready for Isabel. Where is she? I saw her face. There she is. You ready?
I'm ready.
Good.
I know it's been a long day, guys, so bear with me. I appreciate it. All right, can you everybody see?
Should we do a 7th inning stretch?
I
think we should have done it before. I'm going to stand up and stretch, but you set up.
Alrighty. Let's see. So, can you guys see this? Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. Ooh, I can't see. Is it in presentation mode now? Okay, wonderful. All right, hello everybody. My name is Isabel, and my thesis is to design a holistic lifestyle center, ultimately creating accessibility to knowledge. A little bit of background and research as to how I came to this idea was I started with a question. How can I design a facility to maximize educating communities in alternative ways to improve a healthier mind and body through diet, emotional, and mental awareness? As I dived into the research, I first came across the idea of holism, which is the theory that parts to a whole are interconnected and shouldn't exist independently. It can be applied to the human body as well as architecture. Holistic architecture is a practice that is specifically related to the care of the entire individual in the built environment. Through sustainability, green design, ecologically positive materials, and alternative modalities, architecture can embrace the multifaceted dynamics of a created space. And this is a little word blurb that I created after diving further into the research and found all these different words that were ultimately synonyms or synonymous to holism. Feng Shui is the second aspect of my research that I dived into. Feng Shui is a traditional Chinese wisdom aimed at creating harmony among the environment, buildings, and the occupants within the space. This concept organizes qi in the most efficient way to create balance and good health. Qi is the circulating life energy in Chinese philosophy that is thought to be inherent in all things. And these are just two images that I compiled that show how Feng Shui can be organized or understood. We have a chart that shows how you can orient a space as well as the colors and elements and how they can relate and overlap to one another. My chosen site is 4 Technology Way in Salem, Massachusetts. It is in a little bit business plaza off the beaten path. Its building type is originally research and development. It was built in 2014, a 2-story building, roughly about 80,000 square feet, with each story being about 40,000 square feet. In my thesis specifically, I will be utilizing around 25,000 square feet of the space on the first floor. The second floor will be untouched. Some existing details that I found when I discovered this place was a large 25 or 20 to 25 foot ceiling atrium as you enter, and it continued throughout the entirety of the space, like a long hallway. They had large paned windows for maximum daylighting, which is another aspect that I really liked about this site specifically. And also the whole back half of the building itself was empty. It was completely ready to be organized or reconstructed however the designer felt. So that is potential for a future expansion if it ever came down to be. And Salem was the right choice based on the majority of employed residents that were between the ages of 25 to 44, which is the market that I was tailoring to. Going into its surroundings, the site itself is highlighted by the yellow circle. So Salem itself is located off of 2 stops on the commuter rail, Newburyport line as well as the Rockport line. It's a 10-minute drive from Salem Center, as well as it's 5 miles from multiple tourist attractions, including Salem Willows, which is one of the most popular, and includes about I believe it's almost 1 million visitors every summer or every year. And it's a 23-minute drive to the Boston airport. Within walking distance of this establishment, for potential new clients, we have a wholesale bakery located directly in the same plaza, as well as the gymnastics, and a residential neighborhood right around the corner, which would invite multiple new people to enjoy the space. Going into my concept is the Japanese rock garden. The Japanese rock gardens, while a physical representation of harmony and focus, they also are a spiritual or conceptualized portrayal of a journey. Those who do create these gardens are physically creating that harmony and that focus, and then intentionally create a metamorphosis or a portrayal of that journey as well for others to see. And these are some images of different versions of a Japanese rock garden. And then through my partie, I wanted to characterize that 2D pattern and style into a layered explanation of how we're all connected. Overlapping curves and spirals are reminiscent of how we all intersect and take those experiences and qualities and apply them to our own lives. And that's connected back to the rakes itself, the raked patterns, because the story behind that is that they depict a stream of water flowing through life. And then the pillars in the sand or the mounds or the rocks, they represent the obstacles that make their way into our paths and how we continue past them. So it's the second aspect of my concept is what's called Bagua mapping, which is a technique that offers a systematic way to evaluate the energy field of your environment. So then each category is linked to the different aspects of life. So on the wheel itself, we start down at career, which is on the bottom, and then going clockwise, we have knowledge and self-cultivation, new beginnings and family, wealth and prosperity, fame and reputation, marriage and relationships, legacy and future, and then travel and helpful people. And then each gua has a multitude of layered meanings that relate to color, the elements, shapes, multiple other things, decorations, pictures, how you orient yourself within the space every day. And then these different meanings will all be present in my designs of each of the spaces. While researching different certifications or licenses that could be achieved for my building, I felt that the WELL building standard fit most congruently with my entire concept. It's well integrates well with Feng Shui, so to say. They both center around the occupant within the space, as well as their health and how you can better it for them. So I thought it was a no-brainer. And as I dived into it, I thought of the 5 ways that I could continue incorporating it specifically into the space. So out of the 10 concepts, I focused on water, nourishment, movement, sound, and mind. Going into the existing conditions, I was unable to get the original floor plans, but the ones that I was able to get were pixelated and blurry, so I kind of had to guess where a lot of the walls and doors were, but ultimately I got the gist of how the space was laid out, as well as from the pictures that were given to me on the website. So the existing floor plan consists of an abundance of rectilinear and closed off spaces. And then my intention is to create an open flow of qi within the environment. And then in the future, I will be applying the Bagua map over the open space, and then that will allow me to reorganize. And then highlighted here are just some of the examples of how the spaces are closed off and how that creates a poor circulation of qi. And that can go back into a lower quality of an experience for the occupants itself. Going into my program and focus areas, while thinking about how to divvy up the space, originally I started with the Bagua map immediately. That was the first part of me figuring out my program, because I wanted to look at the categories and I wanted to figure out what could best attribute to these categories, what would best apply itself to the occupants of the space. And through that, with each category, I was able to figure out what kind of space or what kind of activity would best utilize the gua and all of its attributes. So we have the welcome area or the lobby, and then the cafe, locker rooms, a meditation and yoga room, cooking classrooms, a central garden, offices and collaborative spaces, conference rooms, a retail shop, and then the back of house. And then the 4 areas that I'm focusing on are the entry, so the welcome area, as well as the waiting area, the cafe under the gua of reputation, which I'll go further into as well as I get more specific on the focus areas, cooking classrooms, which is under the gua of community, and then offices or collaborative spaces. And you'll see as we go along that I actually decided to combine the cafe and the collaborative spaces into one space. Going into my concept integration, the original plan impedes a positive flow of qi, as I mentioned earlier. So I decided to sketch my own version of the Bagua map over the site to find a solution for better flow. This also allowed me to figure out exactly how I could do blocking or even bubble plans in the future too. Circulation is also a large factor for incorrect qi flow. The designated spaces will be predominantly open with connected corridors for maximum efficiency. And then this is my rendition of an abstracted circulation flow. It's what I drew as a Japanese rock garden as well. And the obstacles or the mounds that are impeding on the circulation are the different spaces or rooms that I bubbled out. And then with this program, I was able to classify each potential space under a gua category. And then this technique created the path to finding how each space would be best suited and have the best effect on the whole building and its occupants. Oops, sorry, that wasn't supposed to be there. But so going into my floor plan, I've turned it sideways first so that we would have better visualization, being able to see the whole thing as it's a vertical floor plan, and I felt it would be better this way. So you enter on the right side with the blue arrow. There's also another entry on the top of the plan that goes directly into the cafe and the workstation, which is actually highlighted in red. So you immediately enter into the reception and waiting room. And I really wanted this to be a momentous thing for you to walk into. I utilized the atrium to the best of my ability to invite them into the space and make them feel like they're coming in for an experience, whether small or large. To your left is what I call the wellness spaces, or the wellness corner. And it has the showers as well as the bathrooms, locker rooms, the meditation room, yoga rooms, and wellness and meditation pods. So that is centered around your mind and body and how that's connected and how you can become one with yourself while working. If you need to take a moment, that is something that you can go and utilize. It's there for the employees as well as people who are visiting. Directly above that are the cooking classrooms highlighted in green. There's no way directly from the wellness corner into the cooking classrooms, as they're not supposed to be connected. The cooking classrooms are utilized for outside occupants. The employees could utilize it, otherwise it's mostly for people who are coming with groups or private sessions as well. And then, sorry, like I said earlier, highlighted in red is the combined cafe and workstations. I chose to combine this because I felt that this was such a large space, and I didn't think that a cafe needed to be separated from the rest of the space so wholeheartedly. It made more sense to have it combine and become a collaborative experience where it's more casual and allows you to be collaborative with your other coworkers or friends who are visiting. And then going into the last, or second to last one, on the other side are highlighted in gray are the conference rooms as well as closed offices or flex spaces. A lot of times now we are seeing offices being utilized for group collaboration instead of just single person occupancies. So I've coordinated that off as one after the other for office, flex space, office, flex space. And then the rest of that open space can be utilized for more collaboration. And then lastly, in the center, we have highlighted in yellow, we have the elevator as well as some of the bathrooms and the mechanical closets. This is the core of the space, so I felt it was necessary to keep the elevator where it is, and just make that the central part of how the chi can flow throughout the space, which is why I made those hallways curved the way they are, so that it was able to connect the front and the back, as that was important for the chi flow. Each gua has an assigned element, and there are 5 elements, which is water, earth, wood, fire, and metal. Below, you'll find the assortment of materials, finishes, and physical adaptations of each element that could be utilized in each designated space. A lot of these I did end up using in my designs as well, which you will see when I go into more depth of my focus spaces. And then my entire concept speaks of wellness and the effect of the environment on occupants. And so I will be diving into WELL itself and exploring the WELL standard certification that'll be utilized in my designs, which I'll go further into on the next slides. So the first focus area is the reception. It's under the category of career, and its element is water. So when I decided to come up with some inspiration images, I immediately thought of high ceilings, like what I have, open air, really cool ceiling features or cool drop downs, and I wanted to be able to utilize something like that. So these are on the right are some of my inspiration images of how I want it to feel or how I want it to be depicted. And then my sketches depict how I kind of wanted the space to be developed. I had the Bagua map itself in mind. I wanted to stay true to the concept. So I had the reception desk as the center, as the core, where everybody will feed off of. And then around it, with either changes of flooring or water displays of some form, they would be able to be representational of the Bagua map itself. Going into the floor plan, it was interesting being able to find a way to represent the Bagua map. So I did feel that changing the flooring in a manner that was representational of the Bagua map was best. So on the bottom right-hand corner, those are my two flooring options. They are both from Interface, which was a conscious choice on my part to choose only materials that had some form of sustainability or environmentally impactful attributes. So we have the stone flooring throughout, and then the change in the flooring is the Interface carpet tile that would be reminiscent of how the Bagua categories are. Going above that, we have the modular seating that I wanted to be able to incorporate to make it more fun, more collaborative, as well as interesting for those who are coming and visiting or who just want to hang out. And then above that are some of my finishes, reminiscent of the water category. And then my lighting choices. And then behind just to like give a little pointer, behind each of the seating arrangements are a customized garden or stand of greenery, so that it would cut you off from the rest of the space, but kind of envelop you and make you feel better than just being exposed. Back here, we have a customized water fountain that is ADA accessible as well as a water filling station. For well implementation, I focused on sound, mind, and water. And there are a great deal of points that I can attain, but to show it in the design, I wanted to make sure that people who were coming into the space were aware that water was accessible. That is one of the aspects of well that were very important, especially in my design. So I decided that I would create a customized water station, especially, and this was also reminiscent of my time in Italy, where I actually came across a fountain in one of the squares that it was an outdoor fountain that gave you either tap or non-sparkly and sparkling water. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I knew that that was going to be something that was prevalent in the design here. It was from my own experience. Mind was another one of the well implementations that I could choose from. And I chose to focus on creating a visual to greenery. So as well as behind the seating furniture, you have a green space there along the customized reception desk that has a large display on it. It will be incorporated with greenery. Here, this is the rendering of my focus area of the reception. This is looking in at the front door, like you're coming towards the reception desk. Here you can see the different flooring types and how they wrap around and make you feel like you're in that Bagua map. It does get a little bit cut off at the top, but ultimately you can see that display that circles up to the top of the atrium as a pinnacle or a staple in the design of how I wanted people to experience the space. As you enter, you're able to follow that curve and look directly up into the sun, enjoying the warmth and the light and the quality that you're walking into. Oh, excuse me. Here is the first walkthrough. Just a heads up, for some strange reason, it decided to go backwards. So we'll be walking backwards into the space. So as we're backing up, you see the different greens as well as the water fountain station. Looking up at the second floor, they can look down onto you, and then you have the phone pods as well as the feature wall of freeform, and then you have the reception desk itself, and then you're at the front door. So thank you. Sorry. Didn't realize it goes twice. Going into the second focus area, we have the cooking classrooms. I decided to choose the cooking classrooms based on, again, my experience in Italy. I was fortunate enough to be able to go for a short 5 weeks for studying abroad. And in that time, I took a cooking class. And my, oh my, was my brain expanded. It was amazing. I had wonderful experience. I even still have the cookbook. So I'm utilizing that in the best way possible. But here, it's under the category of community, and its element is wood. And on the right, you'll find some of my inspiration images showing how daylighting, modular orientations, and proper placement can enhance the environment. And then my sketches represent how the space could be organized for maximum occupancy around anywhere between 15 to 22 people, and then while also keeping an open energy flow. Excuse me. And again, I also still wanted to be reminiscent of the Bagua map, as it's such a pinnacle and pivotal point of how well qi can flow. Going into the floor plan, I have some callouts of my furniture choices. It was really hard to find a modular like cooktop. And luckily, Europe has an abundance of them. And I was able to find one that was that could be moved throughout the room. And it's chargeable, so then it can stand on its own. The version that I actually chose doesn't have the sink attachment. It has 2 cooktops instead to maximize the amount of people that could be in there utilizing it at once. And then going into some of my finishes, again, my flooring was interface, really trying to maximize on that sustainability. And then all of my finishes, my other choice of product was the all steel chair that's stackable, so it's easily moved out of the way, as you can see over in the corner over here, so that you don't have to have the chair with you at all times. But that it could be used for, say, when they're lecturing about the safety measures, or he's telling you exactly how you're supposed to make something before he dives into the actual display or presentation. And then again, this was also something that I wanted to make sure was ADA compliant or ADA accessible for those who wanted to enjoy a fun night out with the girls or the guys, or just in having a private lesson to learn. So a wheelchair is fully able to fit underneath it as well. And then for well implementation, we have nourishment, air, and water. And those are more hidden, air and water are more hidden within the space, but nourishment can be utilized as posters, or making sure that products that they incorporate in their food is sustainably sourced or locally sourced, and lots of different implementations like that. This is the perspective of the cooking classroom. Here, I really wanted to create a really tall, fun experience. It's really high ceilings. I decided to utilize the second floor in the sense that I took it out and maximize the ceiling. I wanted to make a full wall that was dedicated to the displays of cookware, as well as utility items that they would use within kitchens. To have it on display just makes the occupants feel like they're a part of it more intensely. Here we have the center module as where the instructor will stand, and then above him we have televisions, so that those who are either not facing him directly are still able to see what he's doing. So he'll be videotaped at the same time. And then the large cylinder things that are coming down from the ceiling, those are the hoods. It was interesting to be able to find a hood that would be able to extend that full space. And eventually I came across one, again, from Europe, because they're just so inventive over there, that was very cylindrical, very sleek, very modern, and was powerful enough to be able to keep the air quality high. So here is the walkthrough. Again, we will be backing up into the space. So get ready. We look at the wall and we are backing up, saying hi to our instructor, looking around, seeing outside, where there would actually be a outdoor aspect where you can enjoy the food once you've made it. To your right of the ovens, and in front of that was the retail space that's attached to it. Here you have the locker rooms, and then we're exiting. Going into the third focus space is the combined cafe and workstations. It's under the category of reputation, and then the workstations is under relationship, excuse me, and it's under the element of fire, and then the workstations is under earth. And then, sorry, so on the right, you can see some of my, my images depict, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. I was thinking about when I originally started my inspiration image search, I immediately was like, have you ever been to a red cafe? And I immediately was like, no. So I started looking into how you can incorporate red without being it too overwhelming, too exemplary, or just straight up not okay. And I found some really interesting ideas that had to do with a lot with light or glass. And so that was really interesting to find, and the coloring itself was something that I was able to incorporate within my designs. And then trying to then incorporate a collaborative space for workstations or an open office environment. I really wanted them to be cohesive and not make it like a stark difference between the two spaces. So in the two images on the bottom, I came up with the ideas of being able to use drop ceilings that were that would maximize both the spaces. And then my sketches depict how I can orient different groupings of furniture that would have different purposes. So for one could be a grouping of workstations or somewhere where someone's intensely working. Another one could be more of a hangout or casual where someone decides to go and take their lunch. And that was the kind of idea that I went along with as I continued my research through the space. Going into the floor plan itself, I have two different floor changes here. We have the stone, the interface stone from, especially it was also utilized in the reception. And then for the floor changes that I wanted to create hubs again, I used a customized Bolon flooring, and Bolon is completely recycled, I believe vinyl, don't quote me on that, but it's completely recycled and incorporated back into it. And even when you're finished with it, the company will take it back and recycle it back into more of their designs. And so a part of this, as you can see, some of the groupings were more casual and then more intensive. So it's hard to see actually under here, the awning gets cut off, but you'll be able to see it in the perspective. But under here, I have workstations, intensive workstations where people can do their work and be away from the rest of the space, which then also goes into a well implementation for movement, as I made sure that they were height adjustable so that those utilizing them could either get up and move, as well as they could bring in like this, what are they called? The when you run and you're at the desk, the treadmill. That's what the treadmill, that could be something that could be eventually implemented. And then all my finishes again had attributes. Carnegie has a large line called Zerel that is largely successful in their sustainability elements. So those were most of the fabrics and surfaces that I utilized here. Also, sound was an important aspect to well here. I made sure to incorporate lots of acoustical properties, including surfaces, as well as drop panels that would be able to reduce the noise, so that, like I said, because it's a combined space, I didn't want it to be too casual for the workstations, but not too rigid for the cafe. Here is the render of the workstations and cafe. So ultimately, you can kind of create a cafe environment anywhere within the space. You can decide to eat while you're working or over in one of the more intensive areas, as well as in one of the casual areas. One of the elements that I focused on as well was the element of fire. And for physical implementation, I thought, well, why not create a centralized element like a fireplace? That's a physical representation, as well as it creates an inviting experience, like people gathering around a fire. Or like a bonfire. This wouldn't actually be a real fire. It would be entirely fake, and it would just produce heat for those winter months as we're in New England. And then incorporating how this could then utilize light itself too. I took away the second floor above it as well and opened it up to a skylight so that there could also be a large display coming off of the fireplace that would keep you centered within that space. Behind the fireplace is a is a customized seating. And it is, I originally went in with this thinking that it would be a really cool, casual, collaborative space. And then as I got further into it and I started discussing it with my advisors, I thought about how it could be housed for events. For example, a lunch and learn, or a speaker, or some type of lecture, because I then turned it into a stage that could be utilized for that. And then all the spaces, all the furniture around it is modular, which then can be moved around to accommodate for the space. Here is the final walkthrough of us walking backwards. So here you have and right in front of you will be the counter for the cafe, and directly behind that is actually the back of house or the kitchen. This is the awning where you couldn't see the workstations themselves, but as you're walking around the space, you see the acoustical panels as well as the groupings of the different furniture. We have some partitions as well as different groupings and a whiteboard so that people could utilize group activities. And then we come to the entry of the space, which is right after you leave the cooking classrooms. And that concludes my presentation. I wanted to say a huge thank you to my professors and specifically my advisors, Rose, who has helped me through an immense stuff. She's been my girlfriend all the way since back when she first recruited me to Mount Ida. And I don't know where I'd be without any of you guys. You ladies are phenomenal, and I'm glad that I chose Mount Ida when I did. And I also wanted to give a huge special thanks to Sarah, my external thesis advisor, who I don't know where I would be without you. The amount of times that we went back and forth collaborating on ideas for my spaces. I have to thank you for so much of my creativity as well as my implementation. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Awesome job, Isabel. Oh my goodness. Wow. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it was such a fun experience not to see the renderings before now. And then just like, whoa, it was awesome. I was completely surprised and very excited with how the space ended up and the design you came up with and finalized. I know we went back and forth a lot about specifically ceiling design in all three of your focus spaces and how to really utilize the two-story space and the natural light in the atrium and really celebrate these spaces and the vertical element to them as well. I think you were very successful with that. I loved, here the fireplace and the kind of sculptural element there you have and the baffles and, your light fixtures and your kind of grid form in the cooking classroom, and then your spiral biophilic element too in the reception desk. So I think it was really awesome to see, and I'm so happy and pleased with where you've come and taken your project. It's amazing. Great job. The one teeny little thing I would have to say is on your overall floor plan, it would be a little bit more helpful if the furniture was shown, because I think it was hard to see the general context of, I know what your space is, but I feel like everyone else probably was a little lost in your explanation of the overall floor plan. But awesome job.
Thank you.
Isabel, this is a wonderful presentation. It was, I thought your application of the Bagua mapping to your program was so clever. It just was so thorough also with how you had translated your concept to your design. I don't know why, but I was obsessed with your elemental materials boards to show the actual elements in relation to your materials, because it spoke to it very clearly. Also your FF&E, and again, yeah, you definitely sourced European, and that's the way to go for sure. But just like the selections and of the FF&E and the appliances were just so perfect too. So I thought that was great. I will say I was a little disappointed when I saw that the one of the modular seatings I think it was in the reception area, it was shown gray, and I got excited by it, but then saw that got translated white because it reminded me of your the Japanese rock garden and the mound. So I was kind of I was like, oh, that's so smart to like put that in, because it looks like the modern take of it. But regardless, like I'm with Zoe when she commented on how breathtaking like these renderings are. They're really great. I'm glad that you went 2-story because it really helps with the overall feel of the space. I thought that was a really great move. It can get dangerous and difficult, but I think you definitely addressed all the areas that it would have been a problem and it wasn't. So a really, really great presentation.
Isabel, you did a really great job. I really thought your Bagua map was very interesting. I've never heard of that before, so that was really interesting to learn. I was really able to see it throughout all of your spaces where you had a centralized zone and it kind of just dispersed throughout. So I liked seeing that implemented in the spaces that you focused on. Your design is very thorough. You definitely did a lot of research on it and it shows. And then again, I love a good ceiling. So all of the ceilings that you've implemented have been great, and your renderings came out amazing. So good job.
Yeah, I agree. Your visuals perspectives look really fantastic. I feel like I wrote down, like, I feel like each one of your spaces was its own thesis. Like, partly because they were each kind of unique, and because you had sort of these concepts within concepts, and I was just always like there's another layer. Like, there were so many layers to your design, but not in a way that, like, when you showed them, it was like, oh, there's too much happening or it's busy. It was just, there were, again, just a lot of thought, and but then the end result felt very cohesive. So it was really interesting to see how you could take sort of these unique aspects and elements of your concept and approach each of them in a unique way, but still have the overall sort of sense of the space and the design feel cohesive. So it was really well done.
Thank you, Steph.
Great job, Isabel. I have notes all over the place. It's sort of like not even legible at this point, but I was going to say a few things that I circled. One, it's hard to go last. And I love that you just took your time, you took a deep breath, and even going backwards, you just took it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, man, those walkthroughs, I don't know.
It's irrelevant because you went with it and you problem solve, and that's what you have to do. And it's interesting because you traveled and you were sent home, your international, travel experience, you and Amanda, which was so devastating, but you had that moment and it truly impacted you and what you, how you see things, what you focus on, how you interpret design, and you really brought that in. And I always push people to do some sort of international travel. And this is exactly why. It opens you up to other cultures, other design applications, and just a different way of thinking. So I'm so happy that you incorporated it. And I too, as your advisor, like Sarah, did not see your perspective. You showed me the wireframes.
Yes.
But I mean, it was mind blowing because I knew you were doing the 2-story and I loved the cooking. That was like one of my favorite elements, but I did not visualize it like that at all. So it's just amazing when you truly work 2-dimensionally and then start sculpting the space, how it can transform. And I'm sure Sarah had a different vision than I had, and we've been working with you closely. But bravo, really nice, thorough, very thoughtful, and impressive, cohesive design.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, I think you could have. All right, so we are, and it's so funny because Isabel, you said you came to Mount Ida, but she didn't tell everyone, which I think most of the students know, but our visitors don't. She left UMass, came to Mount Ida, and then we all followed her back to UMass, which is such a funny story. And we kept asking her, how do you go there? Where's the library? And she became our guide for our whole program.
It was amazing. It was a wild experience of him being at Jewell. It was wild hearing that we were going back. I was actually confused. Full backstory.
So were we.
That email, and I thought that it was directed at me. I thought they were telling me that I had, like, they were sending me back to UMass. And I was so confused. And then people started calling me and they were like, school shutting. And I was like, what? But yeah, so that was an interesting time.
Great. All right. You can stop sharing.
Oh, yes.
And we have officially finished our last cohort of Mount Ida students, which is, I know it's hard to believe that, and you guys, I mean, you're rock stars. The work was just amazing. And I know I saw some underclassmen in here. I can't wait to see them try and catch up. Is that right? Some of them. But you guys get to have graduation, which I'm really excited about. Last year didn't get a graduation, so that'll be fun. Anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm overly impressed with the, overall quality and design and, professionalism from all the presentations tonight. It's just, they were awesome.
Same here. I am just
so
blown away. I'm just so blown away. I'm always excited about joining these because I can see the progress year to year with students and like the introduction of new technology and things like that. But like every presentation was just so good, and I think you guys, your work shows, and you guys did an amazing job. So yay to the end, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Really good work.
Amazing job, everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, I feel like I'm both exhausted thinking about all the work you put in, but like energized by all the really cool ideas that came out of the evening. Like it's really, it was really exciting. I'd love for all of your seniors to like, let's see your smiling faces all together. It's our like, it's always bittersweet at the end. Even if you're in your pajamas, right? Like, join us.
I know. Well, it's so, thank you, Steph, for doing that, because we just, we get sort of, I don't really get used to it, because those of you that were in my lecture know I refuse to lecture unless I see your face. Awesome. I know, what's really interesting too, the diversity of selection of topic. Like the topics were all over the place. Usually we have like, I don't know, a theme or there's a focus, but not this one. You guys were truly all over the place.
It was, but there was definitely, and I wonder if it has something to do with some of your experiences that you've been going through the past few years, just like this idea of like wellness, mindfulness, taking care of yourself, like support, I don't know, there's a theme there that's not just like, some years we've had spaces that are just all about like fun or something, you know, like, but these were fun, but they were also like that element of resiliency we talk about with your class, I think like shows up in the ideas that you had for this, like how can we make life better for everyone?
Yeah. I think that's true. And big social issues of improvement, which is commendable.
Yeah.
I feel like it has to do with the pandemic. We're all like, we need to take care of each other, you know? We got to take care of ourselves too.
Well, I think you guys did that all coming as a cohort. You know, I remember saying to the CETA accreditation team, you know, we left as a cohort, our college closed. We have dealt with a pandemic, and now you're telling me we're going to do our whole accreditation online? Bring it on. We're ready for it. And it's the same thing, Marley, you know, it's that same, you know, cohort of unity and just supporting each other. And you're going to find that in the profession. You guys are all going to be each other's colleagues, and, you know, maybe not, you know, in the same state, but you will definitely be overlapping and using each other for references and support and